Chapter 51. Si Ting looked at the young girl in front of him and quickly scanned her body. She was unscathed. She looked as if she had not encountered any trouble at all. However, that was not right. If Chu Luiyue had walked in the wrong direction and triggered the Xian formation, she would have encountered some problems. However, she looked as if she had just walked over casually. If she had not encountered any accidents, she should have arrived a long time ago. At the very least, she should have arrived around the same time as him. However, she was one step too late. Si Ting wanted to see something from Chu Luiyue's face, but there was only calmness in the depths of her bright eyes. He couldn't see anything. It was as if nothing in this world could shake her mind. "You are very fast," Si Ting said briefly. Chu Luiyue spread out her hands. "I am still a little slower than you." Si Ting did not say anything else and turned to walk forward. There was no suspense in this competition. The only variable was Chu Luiyue. However, it was obvious that she did not intend to use her abilities, so it would not be too late to investigate in the future. Chu Luiyue did not say anything else and continued walking forward. As she passed by a certain area, she looked at the millstone-like stone under her feet. Who would have thought that this was the core of the Xian formation? This ordinary-looking stone actually contained the most powerful energy in the entire Xian formation. As long as she walked past this place, she would not be far from the exit. Si Ting's figure quickly disappeared, and Chu Luiyue followed closely behind. When Si Ting walked out of the forest without any obstructions, Sun Zhongyan and the other two were already waiting there. He pulled out the flag easily, and at the same time, a firework flew into the sky from the flag. Boom! As the firework bloomed in the sky, it meant that the first place of the Xian Master Assessment had been revealed. Si Ting, you have indeed improved a lot. This time, you only took less than an hour to come out. Sun Zhongyan praised him. Si Ting looked calm as he cupped his fists and bowed. Thank you for the compliment, Elder Sunday. I still have many shortcomings. You are only 15 years old this year, but you are already a level 3 Xian Master. You have a bright future ahead of you. Another middle-aged man laughed. Hearing this, Si Ting's expression changed slightly. He seemed to want to say something, but in the end, he swallowed his words. He turned around and looked at the forest. Sure enough, it didn't take long for a beautiful face to appear before his eyes. It was Chu Luiyue. There wasn't much difference in the time the two of them took to reach the finish line. Sun Zhongyan and the other two began to seriously size up Chu Luiyue. This rumored good-for-nothing girl turned out to be like this. Chu Luiyue walked over and pulled out the second flag. When the firework flew into the sky, the other students who were competing in the back of the mountain were all shocked. The first area of the warrior assessment immediately became noisy. How did the Xian Master Assessment progress so quickly? The senior sisters said that it would take several hours. This should be the first place, right? That's still a bit early. Guess who will be the first? Who else could it be? With Si Ting around, no one can get first place, right? At this moment, a deep and powerful voice rang in everyone's ears. First place for the 453rd Xian Master Assessment, Si Ting. Once the voice was heard, the crowd exploded. It's really him. According to this efficiency, Si Ting is definitely a stage 3 Xian Master, right? I haven't heard much about him in the past half a year, so I thought he had gone quiet. I didn't expect him to get first place without anyone noticing. Yeah. Chu Xianmin can't compare to his talent at all. How can a warrior be compared to a Xian Master? Some people whispered and kept looking at Chu Xianmin. Chu Xianmin forced herself to hold it in and pretended that she didn't hear anything, but her nails were already digging deep into her palms. This limelight has been stolen by Si Ting. However, it didn't matter. After all, Si Ting was from the Si family and had nothing to do with her. As long as she could teach Chu Luiyue a lesson today, bang! The second firework flew into the sky again. Everyone was stunned. Is the second place for the Xian Master assessment? There was only a slight delay in the timing. F***CK. Who's so powerful to be able to get second place right after Si Ting? A few questions came from the crowd. The voice from before sounded again. Chapter 52. Although Tianlu Academy's assessment was divided into different periods and was conducted in 3 different areas, they would usually announce the top 3. To a certain extent, this was a reward for the outstanding students. At the same time, it could also motivate the other students. It was not strange for Si Ting's name to appear in first place in the Xian Master assessment. However, what right did Chu Luiyue have to take second place? The noisy back mountain instantly fell into dead silence. Chu Xianmin's body stiffened as chills ran down her back. Her entire body seemed to be out of her control. Her mind was blank. Only one sentence kept echoing in her mind. It almost made her brain explode. Chu Luiyue. Second place in the Xian Master assessment. How could it be? How could it be? Being a Xian Master required a lot of talent. Even she did not have the luck to become a Xian Master, let alone that good-for-nothing Chu Luiyue. Soon, the crowd started discussing. Chu Luiyue is second place. Is there really no mistake? No matter how I think about it, it doesn't seem right. Didn't they say that Chu Luiyue is a good-for-nothing with an incomplete yuan meridian? Could there be a misunderstanding? Even if she passed the assessment, how could she be second place? One had to know that other than Si Ting, there were dozens of outstanding Xian Master talents participating in the assessment. These people had studied in the academy for more than half a year. How could they not even compare to Chu Luiyue? Someone spoke hesitantly. This. Could it be true? Maybe she really has amazing talent as a Xian Master? If that's the case, Teacher Bai Chen's attitude can also be explained. That's impossible. Chu Xianmin screamed almost subconsciously. When the crowd looked over, she realized that she had lost her composure and immediately explained in a panic. I am saying that Sister's Yuan Meridian is indeed incomplete. If she had talent as a Xian Master, there's no way her family wouldn't know. I don't know how she did it either. In other words, Chu Luiyue's second place was not legitimate. Someone chuckled. Chu Xianmin, you stole the Crown Prince's favor. Even if something really happened, Chu Luiyue wouldn't tell you, right? This caused the crowd to burst into laughter. The entire Imperial city knew about what happened at the Crown Prince's birthday banquet a few days ago. Chu Xianmin took the initiative to offer herself to the Crown Prince to gain his favor, which ultimately led to the cancellation of the engagement between Chu Luiyue and the Crown Prince. With such grievances, how could the two sides still have any sisterly affection? To think that Chu Xianmin looked as if she was thinking for Chu Luiyue just now. Her acting skills were really good. Chu Xianmin's face immediately flushed red, and her entire body felt like it was on fire. Chu Xianmin, are you saying this on purpose because you're afraid that Chu Luiyue will steal your limelight? I didn't. Chu Xianmin immediately denied it, but the mocking gazes around her made her feel uneasy. She gritted her teeth. In the past, everyone had said that the position of the Crown Prince's consort would belong to none other than her. Each and every one of them had tried to curry favor with her. How could they dare to say such a thing? But now, her reputation had been ruined. No matter what, the title of Crown Princess would never belong to her. These people immediately turned hostile, ridiculing her to the extreme. I just think it's a little strange. After all, the Xian Master assessment this time is too fast. Who knows, Chu Xianmin, are you doubting elder son? questioned Ling Zhu with a frown. Sun Zhongyan was highly respected in the academy. Not to mention these students, even most of the teachers did not dare to be rash. Chu Xianmin shuddered and finally lowered her head. I don't dare. Seeing her like this, Ling Zhu secretly shook his head. He originally thought that Chu Xianmin was smart, but he did not expect her to be so narrow-minded. The semi-finals are about to start. Doing your own thing is the most important thing. Chu Xianmin nodded and took a deep breath. Now, she only had the hope of regaining her lost ground if she took first place in the warrior assessment. In another area at the back of the mountain, the 451st batch of students' assessment was in progress. Rong Jin stood there and checked his sword. The few youths behind him looked fervent. Your Highness, it looks like you're going to take first place in the warrior assessment this time. Your Highness should be the strongest in the entire academy now, right? Rong Jin chuckled and looked into the distance. That's nothing, pang. A firework exploded in midair. Rong Jin took a look and squinted his eyes slightly. A youth beside him laughed. Si Ting already took first place in the Xian Master Assessment. It looks like the warrior assessment's first place is out too. Another youth's eyes turned and chuckled. Yeah. The warrior assessment's first place should still be Chu Xianmin, right? Rong Jin paused, and his expression softened. She's quite talented. If Chu Xianmin took first place, her reputation would recover a little, and he would look better. A low and thick voice sounded. The 453rd batch of Xian Master Assessment students. Second place, Chu Luiyue. Chapter 53. Chu Luiyue. When Rong Jin heard this name during Tianlu Academy's assessment, he almost suspected that he was hallucinating. This is the same name, right? Said a few youths uncertainly when they saw his strange expression. Rong Jin put away his sword, and his face was as dark as water. Go and ask what's going on. Yes. One of the youths hurriedly turned around and left. The remaining few people looked at each other in dismay. They were all a little confused. His Highness hated Chu Luiyue to the core. Now that he heard this name, he naturally wouldn't be in a good mood. The few of them instantly quietened down as they were afraid of angering Rong Jin. However, they weren't the only ones who heard this sentence. The other students waiting for the assessment at the side also heard it clearly. Some people started to secretly look at Rong Jin and secretly wondered if this Chu Luiyue was the one who caused a commotion recently. Who is this Chu Luiyue? Is he a dark horse that suddenly appeared among the juniors? I don't know. Anyway, I've never heard of him before. However, it shouldn't be him, right? Hey! I suddenly thought of something. Didn't that Chu Luiyue say that he wanted to enter our academy? If I remember correctly, it should be today, right? Sure. Lower your voice. Didn't you see how terrible the Crown Prince's expression is? Besides, how can that Chu Luiyue pass the assessment? I think there must be a mistake. The surrounding whispers reached Rong Jin's ears, and his expression became even darker. Yes, I almost forgot. That Chu Luiyue's only condition for breaking off the engagement was to enter Tianlu Academy. No, definitely not, Your Highness. A shout broke the silence. It was the young man who had gone to scout for information. He had returned. When Rong Jin saw that person, he took a step forward and quickly asked, "What happened? What's going on over there?" Even Rong Jin himself didn't realize that his voice had a tinge of unconcealable nervousness. "Your Highness, the second place for the Xian Master Assessment is indeed Chu Luiyue." The young man gasped for breath. Rong Jin's heart sank, but he still held on to the last bit of hope. There's someone with this name in this batch of students. The young man paused and awkwardly avoided Rong Jin's gaze. Yes, there is someone called Chu Luiyue. Rong Jin closed his eyes and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Sure enough, it was the same name. He knew it. How could Chu Luiyue be a Xian master? Your Highness, the teenager knew that he had misunderstood. He shrunk his neck and explained in a trembling voice, this Chu Luiyue is that. Rong Jin was dazed. What did you say? The youth had a long face. Chu Luiyue was admitted to the academy today. Furthermore, she directly participated in the Mystic Cultivator assessment as a new student and obtained second place. Now, the students and teachers over there were already boiling with excitement. It won't be long before everyone on our side knows about it. It was to the extent that this news would spread to everyone's ears in less than an hour. The good-for-nothing Chu Luiyue that everyone could bully not only successfully entered Tianlu Academy, but he also obtained second place for the midterm Xian Master assessment on the day he entered the academy. This would definitely cause an uproar in the entire Imperial city. Rong Jin didn't recover his senses for a while. Then, he grabbed the young man's collar and shouted angrily, "What nonsense are you talking about? How can someone with a blocked Yuan meridian be a Xian master? Your Highness. How would I dare to lie to you?" This was something that elder son Zhongyan had personally said. Moreover. He swallowed his saliva and wanted to cry. That Chu Luiyue passed all 3 assessments and got into the academy. Teacher Bai Qin said that Chu Luiyue is a rare genius that only appears once every few decades. He'll definitely have a bright future in the future. Bang! Chapter 54. What could be more laughable than this? During the years of their engagement, she was cowardly and lowly, causing him to lose face. However, the moment the engagement was cancelled, she transformed into a genius that everyone envied. Rong Jin refused to believe it no matter what, but he knew that the academy would never make such a mistake. Then, this meant that Chu Luiyue was really a Xian master genius. The crowd was stunned when they heard this, including those who were joking earlier. They were just joking, but who knew that it was true? Some people looked at Rong Jin with complicated gazes. How unlucky must he be to encounter this? The moment the engagement was cancelled, the other person became a highly sought-after genius, and she was even a Xian master. An outstanding Xian master genius was much more precious and popular than a normal warrior genius. If Chu Luiyue had won second place with her own abilities, she would have really made a comeback in the future. From now on, countless people would be begging for her favor. However, Rong Jin actually gave up on such a rare Xian master genius fiancé and chose Chu Xianmin. Even though Chu Xianmin was quite talented, she was still a warrior and was naturally inferior to a Xian master. In addition to the things that happened at the banquet, many people felt that she was shameless and would do anything to climb up the social ladder. She did not care about her reputation at all. Comparing the two, it was tragic. Some people looked at each other quietly and discussed softly. Pfft. If this happened to me, I would regret it to death. That's right. That's a Xian master. Si Ting won first place, and she won second place not long after. Doesn't this mean that her talent is about the same as Si Ting's? After all, Si Ting started cultivating from a young age. This Chu Luiyue seemed to have been bullied in the past few years, right? Even though I don't know how she suddenly became a Xian master genius, things will be different in the future. Keep your voices down. Can't you see how terrible that person's face is? Hey, who can withstand such a difference? Princely Mansion. Rong Xiu reclined on the couch. The sun shone through the window, and his long eyelashes cast a shadow under his eyelids. His clean and noble face was clear and pure, as if he was carved by the heavens with the purest ice. Only the crimson color of his thin lips added an indescribable charm to him. He was the only color of spring in this world of ice and snow, the most enchanting of all. Footsteps could be heard outside the door. It was Enchanting who walked in. Enchanting bowed and said, "Master, the things you've chosen are ready." Rongxiu's eyelashes fluttered as he opened his eyes. A glint flashed across his deep eyes. "The exam results are out, right?" "Yes." First young Mistress Chu has passed all 3 examinations and entered Tianlu Academy. Enchanting's tone was calm, but the waves in her heart had not yet subsided. God knows how shocked he was when he received this news. Although he had already guessed that first young Mistress Chu was not a simple person, he did not expect her to be so capable. Also, first young Mistress Chu took part in the midterm exam. "I heard that. She came in 2nd place for the Xian Master exam." Rongxiu raised his brows. Her flamboyant personality is really a headache. Enchanting glanced at her master, and the corners of her eyes twitched. "Headache? Then why are you smiling? You're not even this happy when you encounter your own problems." "Enchanting, what do you want to say?" Rongxiu glanced at her. Enchanting immediately straightened her body. "What this subordinate wants to say is, Master's vision is really excellent." Rongxiu's slender fingers tapped on the table. After pondering for a moment, he chuckled softly. "Since she's having fun, then let her have fun today. We'll double the gifts that we've prepared." Enchanting asked hesitantly. "Then your share." Chapter 55. Chu Luiyue was still unaware of what was happening outside. The moment she received the flag, the fireworks immediately flew up and exploded in midair. She raised her brows in surprise. She originally thought that only the 1st place would receive such treatment, but she didn't expect the 2nd place to be so high profile. She purposely took 2nd place because she didn't want to attract too much trouble. However, this wasn't bad either. At least from now on, no one would be blind enough to casually find trouble with her. "You are Chu Luiyue." Chu Luiyue turned around and saw a benevolent-looking elder sizing her up. Behind him were 2 middle-aged men. A small Xian formation floated beside them. She understood that these people were the Xian masters controlling the Xian formation in the forest. She curtsied. "Student Chu Luiyue greets the teachers. Elder's son is one of the 5 great elders of the academy." A middle-aged man couldn't help but remind her. Chu Luiyue immediately corrected herself. "Greetings, Elder Sunday." Sun Zhongyan waved his hand and chuckled. "What's so important about this? It's Lu Yu's first time at the academy, so it's normal that she doesn't know about this. I didn't expect the academy to accept another genius like you. No wonder that brat Bai Chen likes you so much. You are indeed very good. That brat, looks like this elder's seniority is really high." She hadn't heard of the 5 great elders before, but they clearly had revered statuses. Chu Luiyue thought this in her heart, but she didn't show it on her face. She spoke in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. "Elder's son is too kind." Seeing her like this, Sun Zhongyan liked her even more. Although she was young, she was very calm and composed. If most students could obtain 1st or 2nd place in the exam, even if they spoke modestly, their eyes would inevitably carry a hint of pride. However, Chu Luiyue's gaze was calm, as if she really didn't care. Either she didn't know what this meant, or she didn't care about the difficulty of the exam at all. "This isn't too much of a compliment. You do have the talent to become a Xian master. If we had discovered it earlier and nurtured it, it would have been a different story today. I don't know what's wrong with the Chu clan, but they actually wasted such a rare genius." If Chu Luiyue had not proposed to enter Tianlu Academy, he would have been buried for the rest of his life. The 2 middle-aged men looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. Elder's son seemed to have a gentle temperament, but in fact, he had extremely high standards. Very few students could enter his eyes. Although Chu Luiyue's performance was not bad, wasn't Elder Sun's evaluation a little too high? Chu Liyue smiled. You think too highly of me. I'm already very happy to be able to study in the academy. Sun Zhongyan stroked his beard and smiled at Si Ting. Citing, you have to work harder in the future. Si Ting pursed his lips and looked down. Elder Sun is right. It seemed that Elder Sun had also noticed something. This Chu Liyue had most likely conserved his strength during the assessment. Since the assessment is over, come and take a look at this Xian formation. Elder Sun said as he pointed at the silver Xian formation floating in midair. Si Ting and Chu Liyue followed his advice and walked over. This Xian formation was personally set up by Sun Zhongyan, and it was extremely intricate and complicated. If they could see it with their own eyes and understand it, they would naturally benefit greatly. After about an hour, the sound of hurried footsteps could be heard from the forest again. Chu Liyue looked up and smiled. It was Si Yang. At this moment, his hair was messy, and his clothes were stained with blood. It was obvious that he had suffered a little inside. He was very different from his initial high-spirited self. His gaze swept across the row of flags in front of him and realized that there were only 2 empty spots. In other words, there were only 2 people who had arrived before him. He was third. At this thought, a smile finally appeared on his face. He quickly walked over and pulled out the flag. Although the process was very difficult, it was worth it to get this result. Then, he looked up in front of him. In the Xian formation in the forest, he could not hear anything from the outside world, so he did not know who was first and second. When he looked up, he saw a familiar tall figure. It was indeed Si Ting. He turned his gaze and looked to the side. When he saw that beautiful face, he froze on the spot. Congratulations. Chu Liyue clapped his hands and smiled. 3rd place. Si Yang's mind was a mess and he instinctively asked, "Why are you here?" Chu Liyue blinked. "Because I'm second." You. Chapter 56. Si Yang felt like he was about to vomit blood. He was too slow. He was in 3rd place. Such a result was something to be proud of, but Chu Liyue was mocking him. But he could not refute it. After all, he was in 2nd place. Even if he did not believe it, Chu Liyue did not have the guts to lie in front of Elder Sun and the others. Thinking about what he said before and comparing the results of the 2 of them, he felt a burning sensation on his face. When did you come out?" Si Yang held on to his last hope and struggled to ask. If Chu Liyue was only a little faster than him, then it did not count. This girl and Si Ting were less than half an hour apart. She was about an hour earlier than you. Sun Zhongyan smiled. Si Yang was a good kid in other aspects, but he was a little too arrogant and self-righteous. Using Chu Liyue as an excuse, Sun Zhongyan could also teach him a lesson and make him restrain himself. Indeed, after hearing Elder Sun's words, Si Yang's last bit of hope disappeared completely. He lowered his head dejectedly. If there was a crack in the ground, he would have crawled into it immediately. To think that he had provoked Chu Liyue just now. Now, he looked like a joke. Chu Liyue asked. "If you feel that it's a pity that we did not have a real fight today, we can do it another day." Si Yang's heart skipped a beat. He took a closer look at Chu Liyue. Then, he realized to his surprise that Chu Liyue did not have any injuries on his body. This assessment had tortured him greatly, but Chu Liyue did not seem to be affected at all. He gritted his teeth and turned his head away angrily. "No need. I admit that you were better than me in today's round." After saying this, he felt that he had lost all his face. He did not want to stay here any longer. Lu Yu is indeed very talented in this area. You will be classmates in the future. It's always good to help each other and interact more. Sun Zhongyan said. Si Ting finally looked away from the Xian formation. This student will remember Elder Sun's advice. Sun Zhongyan nodded. Then, the announcement of the third place sounded again. This time, it was Si Yang's name. Originally, Si Yang had been looking forward to seeing his name appear in such a manner, but now that it had really happened, he wasn't happy at all. She even felt an inexplicable sense of shame when she thought about being next to Chu Luiyue. The other party had quietly taken second place, so what was his third place? He walked behind Si Ting and did not say a word. Occasionally, she could not help but look up at Chu Luiyue. He couldn't understand how Chu Luiyue, who was ridiculed by everyone in the Imperial capital, could suddenly become so powerful. When Chu Luiyue looked at him, he quickly looked away and pretended that nothing had happened. Only his ears were getting redder and redder, exposing his guilty conscience and nervousness. After a few times, Chu Luiyue finally couldn't help but laugh out loud. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. This time, not only his ears, but Si Yang's face and neck also turned red. He actually didn't want to say much to Chu Luiyue, but he was really too curious. Finally, he couldn't help but ask awkwardly, that, you? So many people said that you're a loser. Are you pretending? Chu Luiyue raised his eyebrows slightly. When he said this, the others also looked over. In fact, this was also what they wanted to ask. No. Chu Luiyue shook his head and gave a straightforward answer. Si Yang leaned forward, but Chu Luiyue shut his mouth. It was obvious that he didn't want to explain further. He was a little disappointed, but he also knew that this was someone else's secret, and he had no right to ask. He could only mumble, I knew it. If you're pretending, why don't you just take first place? I heard that the first place this year can even meet the envoy from the Tianling dynasty. Chapter 57. Her eyes flickered as she concealed the shock in her eyes. Then, she looked confused. The Tianling dynasty. You don't know. That's right. Your life in the Chu family was so miserable. It's normal that you don't know about such a powerful existence. Only then did Si Yang feel better. At the very least, he knew more about this than Chu Luiyue. As a direct descendant of the Si family, he had only heard of some rumors. However, this was already beyond the reach of ordinary people. Chu Luiyue curled her fingers as if she didn't care about Si Yang's words. She smiled and said, Why? Is the so-called Tianling dynasty very powerful? It's more than powerful. It's an existence that the entire country Yaochen looks up to. Then, Si Yang was excited. Just as he was talking excitedly, Si Ting glanced at him. Si Yang. Si Yang became listless and coughed. I know. I shouldn't talk about such things. Chu Luiyue was silent for a moment before she asked again, You said that we can meet their envoy if we get first place in the assessment. Si Yang glanced at Si Ting carefully. Seeing that he didn't seem to have any objections, he nodded. Yes. Although we don't have the chance to go to the Tianling dynasty, it's a great opportunity to meet their envoy. As he spoke, he glanced at Chu Luiyue and shook his head. It's pointless for you to ask these questions. This assessment has already ended. You got second place. Anyway, you don't have the chance anymore. Chu Luiyue looked down. You seem to be very concerned about this matter. Si Ting suddenly asked. He clearly saw from the side that Chu Luiyue's entire person seemed to be different after hearing this news. Previously, even when she got second place in the assessment, she was very calm. It was as if she didn't take this matter to heart and was just casually doing it. However, just now, Chu Luiyue seemed to be asking casually. However, when she asked, it meant that she was concerned about this matter. According to Si Yang, this is a rare opportunity. It's fine if I didn't know about this before, but now that I know, I naturally want to see it for myself. Chu Luiyue looked magnanimous, but there was a hint of regret between his brows. What a pity, she was reborn in country Yaoqin, which was very far away from the Tianling dynasty. She originally thought that it would take many years for her to go back and take revenge on those people. However, he had never expected that the people of the Tianling dynasty would come by themselves. Although she didn't know who the so-called envoy was, she could at least find out some information. However, the Tianling dynasty rarely sent envoys to their subordinate countries. At the very least, during the years that she was in power, they had never sent anyone to country Yaoqin. What was going on this time? Chu Luiyue withdrew his gaze and once again looked at the profound formation in front of him, as if he was still concentrating on studying it. But in reality, her mind was still on the matter of the envoy of the Tianling dynasty. If she missed this opportunity, she didn't know how long she would have to wait to find out more about the Tianling dynasty. Country Yaoqin was just an inconspicuous country among the dozens of subordinate countries. The probability of this happening was extremely low. Of course, her current ability wasn't enough to support her revenge, but, if she could find some clues, it might not be a bad thing. It had been a full year since the day she died. She wanted to know what happened after that. Chu Luiyue felt as if there were two little people fighting in her heart, making her feel very conflicted. Big brother, if you see the envoy, you must tell me what he or she is like. Si Yang moved closer to Si Ting with a yearning and envious look. I heard that everyone there is a top-notch expert. It would be great if I have the chance to go there and take a look in this lifetime. Si Ting smiled. Work hard. There will be a chance. Si Yang's eyes lit up, and he nodded vigorously. But soon, his face fell. Sigh, but I don't know how long I have to wait. This opportunity only came once in a few decades in country Yaoqin. It was very rare. Elder son, I would like to ask you a question. Chu Luiyue suddenly asked. Sun Zhongyan nodded. Go ahead. Does the academy have a rule that a person can only participate in one assessment? Sun Zhongyan shook his head. There isn't. However, there wasn't such an example before. This is because although the assessment is divided into martial warrior, Xian master, and celestial physician, every student has their own specialization. Basically, they will only participate in one of their specialties. He looked at the girl in front of him and suddenly vaguely guessed something. You want to participate in another assessment? Chu Luiyue pursed her lips and smiled, her eyes shining brightly. Elder son is wise. How can this be? You have already participated in the Xian Master assessment. Another teacher blurted out to express his objection. Chu Luiyue looked calm. Teacher, you seem to have forgotten that I just entered the academy today. I haven't chosen any subject yet. Therefore, I am qualified to participate in other assessments, right? As soon as he finished speaking, everyone choked. That's right. Chu Luiyue was admitted to the academy by passing all 3 examinations. In that case, before she decided on what she wanted to study, she could really take part in any examination. But your talent as a Xian master is the best, and you've already obtained 2nd place. Even if you participate in other assessments, you won't be able to obtain better results. Another teacher couldn't help but say. Chu Luiyue was unmoved. We'll only know after we try. You're crazy. Si Yang was stunned for a while before realizing what Chu Luiyue was planning to do. He immediately rushed to her side and shouted anxiously, I admit that you're very talented as a Xian master, but this doesn't mean that you can have any advantages in the martial warrior and celestial physician assessments. Aren't you courting death if you go like this? 2nd place is already very good. Why are you so stubborn? If you get beaten half to death, let's see what face you'll have when you come back. Chu Luiyue looked at him in surprise. This fellow seemed to be worried that she would be bullied. Si Yang's face and neck flushed red. He felt a little guilty under her gaze and raised his voice. Don't let your imagination run wild. Now that everyone knows that you're second place as a Xian master, you're already considered one of us. If you go and embarrass yourself, we'll also be mocked by others. The heavenly doctors didn't say anything, but the martial artists and mystic cultivators had actually been secretly competing with each other. Si Yang had already acknowledged Chu Luiyue as one of them, but seeing her like this, he naturally refused to agree. Chu Luiyue patted his shoulder. Chapter 58. It's finally the finals. Minmin, first place is yours, right? Yes. I heard that you broke through again. Show us what you're capable of. The warrior assessment area was more than halfway through and had reached the finals. This group had the most students, about 300 of them. However, only 2 of them were able to pass through all the stages and make it to the finals. Chu Xianmin was one of them. Hearing the praises of the people around her, Chu Xianmin's mood finally improved. She said humbly, I'm sorry. She said humbly, I'm not as powerful as you say. Besides, Gu Mingfeng is very powerful too. I might not be first in this assessment. Gu Mingfeng was the other person who entered the finals. He was also from the Gu family, one of the 4 big families. He's just a bastard. How can he compare to you, Minmin? Said a girl with a snort. If it weren't for his talent, why would the Gu family care about him? In country Yaoqin, the hierarchy between the first wife and the second wife was very important. Chu Xianmin glanced at Gu Mingfeng from afar and saw that he was looking in her direction. He was actually very good-looking. His facial features were exquisite as if they were carved by the heavens. However, his amber eyes seemed to have a hint of darkness, which made people shudder. A look of disapproval immediately appeared on her face as she tugged at her. Strength is everything. Yen, don't say such things in the future. The girl called Yen did not notice that Gu Mingfeng was looking in her direction and stuck out her tongue. So what? Does he dare to find trouble with the Lu family's second missy? Although the Lu family could not be compared to the Gu family, she was still the first wife's daughter. Chu Xianmin looked up at Gu Mingfeng but saw that he looked away as if he did not hear her. Of course, Gu Mingfeng heard her. She wanted to do him a favor, but he did not seem to take the bait so easily. Chu Xianmin actually did not like bastards with no status and decided not to think about them. Lu Fian pulled her sleeve and whispered, Minmin, Chu Xianmin, you're the second runner-up in the assessment. Minmin, Chu Luiyue took second place in the Xian Master assessment. No matter what, you can't be suppressed by her. You must take first place. Chu Xianmin's face stiffened. She was annoyed at Lu Fian for being so tactless and touching her sore spot. She nodded reluctantly. I know what to do. At this moment, a firework exploded in the distant sky. First place for the 451st Batch Warrior Assessment, Rong Jin. It's the Crown Prince. The first place is indeed him. Lu Fian's eyes brightened, and she hurriedly shook Chu Xianmin's arm. Min, His Highness the Crown Prince is indeed as powerful as the rumors say. I heard that the competition in that year was very intense. He was really amazing to be able to take first place. Chu Xianmin smiled nonchalantly. This is a piece of cake for Brother Jean. Lu Fian was envious and jealous when she heard her calling him so intimately. Hey, Min, His Highness the Crown Prince thinks highly of you. Since the examination is over, will he come to see you? As soon as he finished speaking, even the people around him looked over. Chu Xianmin was a little embarrassed. If it was before, the Crown Prince would definitely come. However, after that banquet, the Crown Prince's attitude towards her had become much colder. He probably wouldn't come. She forced a smile on her face. The assessment over there has just ended. Brother Jean should still be busy and won't have time to come over. Before he could finish, a familiar voice came from nearby. What are you talking about, Min Min? This is your finals. Of course, I have to come. Chu Xianmin's heart skipped a beat, and she immediately looked up. Crown Prince Rong Jin, who was wearing a purple brocade robe, was walking over. Chu Xianmin was happy and nervous at the same time. He must know that Chu Luiyue took second place in the Xian Master Assessment. Why is he here to see me instead of being angry? Rong Jin walked in front of Chu Xianmin with a rare gentleness. He emphasized every word as if he was emphasizing something. Chapter 59. Chu Xianmin immediately guessed Rong Jin's thoughts. He had just broken off his engagement with Chu Luiyue, but Chu Luiyue was admitted to Tianlu Academy and even took second place in the Xian Master Assessment. This was equivalent to slapping the Crown Prince in the face. At this time, she could only take first place in the Warrior Assessment and prove that she was stronger than Chu Luiyue. Only then could she save some face. This not only concerned her but also the Crown Prince. That was why he rushed over under such circumstances. He wanted to let everyone know that he did not lose anything by giving up Chu Luiyue and choosing Chu Xianmin. Don't worry, Brother Jean. I'll do my best. Chu Xianmin knew that this was her chance, so she hurriedly agreed. As long as she performed well today, the Crown Prince would have a way out, and everything else would be easy. Rong Jin nodded in satisfaction. He liked Chu Xianmin's intelligence the most. She knew what to do and what not to do at the right time. Chu Xianmin, Gu Mingfeng, are you ready? The finals are about to start. Shouted the teacher in charge of the assessment. Upon hearing this, Chu Xianmin and Gu Mingfeng walked toward an empty space in the middle. The other students had already formed a circle and were waiting for the finals to start. To be able to stand out among hundreds of outstanding students, the two of them naturally had sufficient talent and strength. The finals will determine the final first place. There is no time limit until one side concedes. However, you are not allowed to kill during the competition. Otherwise, you will be disqualified from the competition. The teacher raised his voice and glanced at the two of them. Do you understand? I'll remember. Competition. Start. The atmosphere in the arena suddenly became serious after the teacher gave the order. Please give me your guidance. Chu Xianmin said politely. As soon as she finished speaking, her feet moved and she quickly attacked Gu Mingfeng. A sharp light flashed across Gu Mingfeng's eyes. The two of them fought hand to hand and immediately became a mess. The two of them are about to break through the standards of a Stage 4 warrior. I'm afraid it will take some time for the winner to be decided. Some teachers from the academy were watching at the side. They watched the situation in the arena and discussed softly. Chu Xianmin has been fighting steadily, so she must be stronger. She should win this round. I've heard that Gu Mingfeng has also been diligently cultivating recently. It's hard to say who will win. Chu Xianmin and Gu Mingfeng did not have the same teacher, so it was inevitable for them to compare. A teacher chuckled and narrowed his eyes. Actually, I want to take a look at the Xian Master Assessment. Hee, old you, there's nothing wrong with you usually, but you like to watch the fun, and that's the worst part. The Xian Master's test is nothing more than Xian formations. You can't even understand them, so what can you do there? I think you probably want to see Chu Luiyue, right? Someone at the side mocked. The person who was exposed simply admitted it. Aren't you curious? Previously, everyone said that she was a good-for-nothing, but in the blink of an eye, she became a mystic cultivator. Could it be that the entire Chu clan was blind? Why didn't they discover such a genius? Old you, let's not get involved in the matters of the aristocratic families. At this point, everyone looked at each other and did not say anything else. They quickly changed the topic to Chu Xianmin and Gu Mingfeng's match. 5 minutes had passed, but the two of them were still locked in a fierce battle. Chu Xianmin gradually became anxious. This was because she realized that Gu Mingfeng was stronger than she had imagined. If this continued, the first place would be in jeopardy. She quickly glanced at Rong Jin from the corner of her eye and saw that his face was indeed gloomy. Chu Xianmin secretly gritted her teeth. This can't go on. I have to end this quickly. Chapter 60. Gu Mingfeng raised his sword at the same time. Slash! The two swords met and made a piercing sound. Sparks flew. Chu Xianmin's heart sank. The strength in Gu Mingfeng's sword is stronger than mine. He actually hit his ability just now. Thinking of this, Chu Xianmin panicked even more. No! I can't lose to Gu Mingfeng. I must take first place today. Gu Mingfeng exerted more strength in his wrist, and the long sword pressed down on Chu Xianmin. Chu Xianmin's entire arm was numb, and she could barely hold the sword in her hand. Suddenly, she had an idea and let go. She lowered her body and dodged to the side. Gu Mingfeng thought that she would try again, but he did not expect her to abandon her sword and lose her footing. The long sword in his hand, which was filled with force, missed. It even caused his body to sway. At this moment, Chu Xianmin had already circled to his side. A cold light flashed in her hand. It was a sharp dagger. By the time Gu Mingfeng reacted, the dagger was already in front of him. It was only half an arm's length away from his neck. He subconsciously wanted to turn his long sword around, but it was too late. In a hurry, Gu Mingfeng could only retreat quickly. However, he had already lost his footing just now, and now, he had lost his center of gravity. He looked at Chu Xianmin with a cold gaze. This Chu Xianmin dared to trick me. The anger in his heart burned. Just as he was about to move, he suddenly thought of something. His expression changed slightly, and he hesitated for a moment. No, I can't do it now. In this moment, Chu Xianmin was already in front of him. Gu Mingfeng secretly reduced half of the strength in his leg and kicked Chu Xianmin's wrist. Bang! He actually kicked the dagger in Chu Xianmin's hand away. However, Chu Xianmin was already prepared and immediately lifted her leg. She kicked Gu Mingfeng's heart. With a muffled sound, Gu Mingfeng's body flew backward. Then, he landed heavily on the ground. He left a long mark on the ground. The crowd outside the arena quietened down. An examiner raised his voice and said, Gu Mingfeng has left the arena. Chu Xianmin wins this round. Upon hearing this, the rock in Chu Xianmin's heart finally fell to the ground. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Did Chu Xianmin do that on purpose just now? I think so too. Their strength is about the same. How could she let go of her sword so easily? If not for that, Gu Mingfeng wouldn't have failed. Are you jealous that Chu Xianmin got first place? It's not like everyone doesn't know about her talent and strength. Was there a need to resort to such means? The teachers didn't say anything. But it did look a little strange just now. One of the teachers laughed. A competition is a competition. Sometimes, it's not bad to be a little smarter. There were other teachers who didn't agree, but they didn't say anything in the end. They could clearly see that Chu Xianmin was skirting the boundaries. Even though it wasn't very good, it wasn't a big mistake. When they really fought in the future, the situation they would encounter would be much more dangerous than this. Moreover, Gu Mingfeng seemed to have no intention of competing for first place. Hearing the teacher say so, the doubtful voices in the crowd gradually disappeared. Chu Xianmin walked to Rong Jin and gently exhaled. Luckily, I didn't disappoint Brother Jin. Roan Jean smiled and said, "Your strength has improved a lot compared to before. It seems like you can break through to become a stage 4 warrior soon." He didn't care about the process, what he wanted was the result. "I promised you before that I would give you a reward as long as you came in first." Roan Jean was in a good mood now, and he found Chu Xianmin much more pleasing to the eye. She couldn't be his wife, but she could be his concubine. First place for the 453rd batch of students' warrior assessment. Chu, wait. Before the examiner could finish his announcement, he was suddenly interrupted by a clear female voice. Everyone looked over at the same time, and they were all shocked. "Chu Luiyue, why are you here?" The examiner was a little angry at being interrupted, but his voice became much gentler when he saw that it was Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue smiled and said, "My name is Chu Luiyue." Chapter 61. What? You want to take part in the warrior assessment? The teacher was shocked. Didn't you already take part in the Xian Master assessment? Chu Luiyue explained, "Today, it's my first day. I haven't chosen a subject yet, so I should be able to take part in the warrior assessment, right?" The teacher was stunned. "That's not wrong, but there has never been a precedent like this before. Normally, even if a person had many talents, they would only choose one to focus on cultivation. For example, people who could become Xian masters would usually put a lot of effort into Xian formations and not warrior cultivation. A person's energy was limited. If one wanted to do both, they would not be able to do both well. Besides, Chu Liuyue's Yuan meridian was blocked, so becoming a Xian master was the best choice. Why did she want to take part in the warrior assessment? The academy doesn't stipulate that a person can only take part in one assessment. Since this girl wants to try, let's give her a chance. The teacher raised his head to take a look and was immediately shocked. He bowed respectfully. "Greetings, Elder Sunday." Chu Luiyue also looked back and nodded gratefully. She originally wanted to do it herself, but she did not expect Sun Zhongyan to follow her. It seemed like he wanted to support her. Since Sun Zhongyan had spoken, it was not appropriate for others to stop her. The teacher hesitated for a moment and said awkwardly, "It's not impossible if you want to take part in the assessment. However, the assessment here is over. Even the finals are over. If you want to take part in the assessment, you need an opponent to determine the winner. However, there isn't a suitable candidate now." Chu Luiyue lifted her chin. "Isn't there a suitable candidate?" "Chu Xianmin." The teacher said in disbelief. "You want to fight with the top warrior? Are you kidding me? Is Chu Luiyue stupid? She lacked a Yuan meridian and could not even be considered a first-stage warrior's opponent. How could she compare to Chu Xianmin, who was about to break through to become a stage 4 warrior? Once she went on stage, only failure awaited her." Chu Luiyue paused and smiled. "That's right. Because, I'm here to take first place." After the finals ended, the warrior assessment area had already calmed down. Many people were already preparing to leave. However, they did not expect Chu Luiyue to participate in the assessment and even challenge Chu Xianmin. The originally quiet crowd immediately boiled over. "Are you serious? Chu Luiyue wants to fight Chu Xianmin? Did I hear wrongly just now? She said she wants to take first place. What the? This Chu Luiyue is usually quiet, but once he does, he will amaze the world. Does she think that she hasn't been in the limelight enough today? The sisters are fighting, and the crown prince is right next to them. How lively!" If it weren't for the fact that there were so many people watching, Chu Xianmin would have laughed out loud. Chu Luiyue actually wanted to compete with her for first place. If it was a mystic cultivator competition, she couldn't do anything to her, but if it was a martial artist competition, Chu Luiyue was simply looking for a beating. "Sister, do you really want to challenge me?" Chu Xianmin was filled with jealousy and hatred, but she did not know how to vent it. Who would have thought that Chu Luyue would come knocking on her door? Chu Luyue raised her eyebrows. You're not going to accept. I'll follow your orders, sister. But don't worry, sister. I'll be careful and won't hurt you. As she spoke, she smiled at the teacher. Teacher, please allow me to participate in this competition. Since the two of them had agreed, the bystanders naturally did not stop them. Sure. Then we'll have another match. However, I'll repeat myself. Don't go too far. Chu Luyue did not comment. Rong Jin looked at the girl not far away with a complicated expression. The once lowly girl had now become a Xian master genius. Did she purposely come here to prove something in front of me? However, after waiting for a while, Chu Luyue did not even look in his direction. It was as if she did not care about him at all. An inexplicable anger arose in Rong Jin's heart. He turned and looked at Chu Xianmin. Chapter 62. Chu Xianmin was flattered. The crown prince liked her, but he rarely spoke to her in such a gentle tone. She could even hear a hint of affection in his voice. Especially in front of so many people. Didn't this mean that the crown prince wanted to marry her as soon as possible? Chu Xianmin's heart was filled with joy and pride, and her smile became even sweeter. Then, I'll thank you first, Brother Jin. Rong Jin nodded, but his peripheral vision quickly swept toward Chu Luyue, who was not far away. However, he saw that she had already walked toward the arena in the middle as if she did not care about what was happening here and did not care about what he was doing. Rong Jin pursed his lips tightly, and the inexplicable anger in his heart burned even more fiercely. Didn't Chu Luyue previously say that she had a crush on him? Why did she have such an attitude now? In the past, he only had disgust for her. The marriage agreement between the two of them was like a huge mountain pressing down on his heart, making him extremely angry. However, now that the marriage agreement was broken and she did not pester him or even look at him, he felt that something was amiss and a little uncomfortable. He did not know why he had such a feeling, but it could not dissipate and continued to linger in his heart. Rong Jin quickly retracted his gaze and looked at Chu Xianmin in front of him. He suddenly felt that it was a little boring. Chu Xianmin did not notice Rong Jin's abnormality at all as she turned and walked to the arena. The two of them faced each other from afar. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. Sister, I haven't congratulated you. I didn't expect you to be so talented as a Xian master. If the family knew, they would be very happy. Chu Xianmin had a smile on her face as if she was truly happy for her. The crowd looked at each other with suspicion in their eyes. What did this mean? How could the Chu family not know that Chu Luyue was a Xian master? Then, how did she start learning to be a Xian master? How did she win second place among so many outstanding students? Don't worry. They will know about this very soon. I don't know if they'll be happy, but you don't seem to be, third sister. Chu Luyue's words were very direct. She had no intention of beating around the bush and pretending to be close sisters. Chu Xianmin's face was a little embarrassed. Elder sister, you're treating me like an outsider. It's a good thing for the entire Chu family that you can become a mystic cultivator, so how can I not be happy? The more talented and powerful you are, the happier your sister will be. I'll have to trouble elder sister to give me some pointers in this warrior assessment. Snickers came from the crowd. Chu Luyue has a damaged yuan meridian and can't even be considered a martial artist. He will definitely lose this match. How can he have the ability to teach Chu Xianmin? Ha ha ha. Looks like the two sisters have completely fallen out with each other. The corners of Chu Luyue's lips curved up slightly. Since third sister says so, then, I won't be polite. Before she finished speaking, her figure suddenly disappeared. Chu Xianmin was stunned, and her heart skipped a beat. How can Chu Luyue be so fast? A piercingly cold and dangerous aura suddenly attacked him from behind. Chu Xianmin subconsciously turned around and drew her sword. A red figure flashed before his eyes. Chu Xianmin quickly swung her sword forward and viciously stabbed forward. The sharp sword instantly pierced through the person's chest in front of her. Before Chu Xianmin could rejoice, she saw that not only was the figure not injured, but it also slowly disappeared. She immediately felt that something was amiss. This was not Chu Luyue at all, it was only her afterimage. Your reaction is too slow. A cold voice was heard. Chu Xianmin looked up and saw Chu Luyue standing 3 steps away, looking at her indifferently. Her gaze was as if she was looking at an ant. Chu Xianmin felt an inexplicable sense of inferiority when she was looked at like this. What happened just now? The spectators at the side did not expect Chu Xianmin to miss and looked at each other. A few teachers' expressions changed slightly. They looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. How can Chu Luyue be so fast? It looks like she's not weaker than a stage 3 warrior. She's not even a warrior. How can she have such strength? At this moment, Bai Qin could not help but raise his eyebrows proudly. Hee, think about it. What's so strange about little Lu Yu being able to pass the warrior exam? The teachers were stunned when they heard this. Yes. Chu Luyue passed all 3 exams. This proves that her strength can reach the level of a stage 3 warrior. Bai Qin felt relieved when he saw their expressions. Do you think that I secretly went easy on little Lu Yu to get into our academy? The teachers were silent for a moment and shook their heads. Bai Qin was very straightforward and magnanimous. He would never do such a thing. Let me tell you. The best part is yet to come. This group of people is not flexible. They will regret it when they see the girl's talent. No. It shouldn't be like this. Chu Xianmin gritted her teeth. Chu Luyue is just a good-for-nothing, but I'm about to break through and become a stage 4 warrior. How is it possible that I'm not Chu Luyue's match? What happened just now was just a moment of carelessness. Chu Xianmin did not say a word as she circulated the force in her body and injected it into her longsword. Buzz! The sharp edge of the sword began to tremble, bringing with it a frightening sword cry. Go! Chu Xianmin tipped her toes and quickly attacked Chu Luyue. Chu Luyue looked up. The sharp sword aura came straight at her. Her hair flew up with the wind. This time, Chu Luyue can't avoid it, some people in the crowd discussed softly. However, the next second, the crowd was shocked to see that Chu Luyue did not retreat. Instead, she advanced. She took a step forward and planned to face the attack head-on. The key was that she did not have any weapons on her. She wanted to fight Chu Xianmin barehanded. Wouldn't he lose for sure? The long sword was only half an arm away from Chu Luyue's neck. Chu Xianmin looked at the face that was getting closer and closer, and a sinister thought suddenly surfaced in her heart. This face is really becoming more and more beautiful. If I can destroy it, I'll see how I can show off in the future. Thinking of this, she turned her wrist slightly, and the tip of the sword moved away by an inch, stabbing toward Chu Luyue's face. Murderous intent flashed across Chu Luyue's eyes. Then, she bent her left leg slightly, and her right leg flew up and kicked toward Chu Xianmin. Bang! She actually kicked Chu Xianmin's wrist. A sharp pain came, and Chu Xianmin cried out in pain. Before she could react, Chu Luyue had already closed in on her quickly. She flipped her body and sent her left leg flying. This time, she directly kicked Chu Xianmin's face. Chapter 63. My face. Chu Xianmin felt that something was amiss and immediately touched her face. It was sticky to the touch. That piercing pain made her heart tremble. Chu Luiyue actually ruined my face. Anger exploded from the bottom of Chu Xianmin's heart and washed away her last bit of rationality. She quickly looked at the bottom of Chu Luiyue's feet and saw that there were indeed a few extremely sharp blades. Chu Luiyue had just used this to scratch her face. There was an 80% chance that it would leave a scar. She hurriedly covered her face as she questioned him with a trembling voice. Chu Luiyue. What grudge do I have with you for you to harm me like this? Chu Luiyue calmly glanced at her sword that had fallen to the ground. Weren't you the one who wanted to ruin my face first? Chu Xianmin was instantly speechless and felt guilty. Actually, everything happened in an instant. When she decided to take the opportunity to leave something on Chu Luiyue's face, she only turned her wrist slightly. If one did not look closely, they would not have noticed anything wrong. However, Chu Luiyue directly guessed her intentions. No. I didn't. I was just sparring with you. Why would I think of doing such a thing? You. It was clearly you. You wanted to do this long ago, didn't you? Otherwise, how could you be so fast just now? Chu Luiyue's lips curved slightly as he mercilessly mocked her. I'm fast because I'm stronger than you. You should have known this from the very beginning, right? Chu Xianmin's anger was stuck in her chest. It was so uncomfortable that she felt like she was going to explode. She had no way of refuting Chu Luiyue's words. When the two of them first sparred, Chu Luiyue was indeed very fast. However, her face was ruined just like that. How could she take it lying down? The murderous intent in Chu Xianmin's heart surged crazily. I'll kill you. Chu Xianmin screamed and rushed toward Chu Luiyue. Even though her face was scratched, her physical strength was still there. Now that she was furious, she directly exploded with her fastest speed. Even the surrounding heaven and earth force seemed to be guided as it surged toward her and entered her body. In a short period of time, Chu Xianmin's aura became even stronger. Sky Star Fall. In the blink of an eye, red origin power quickly gathered on her hands and quickly formed a burning fireball. Then, she violently threw the red fireball. The fireball burned quickly and charged toward Chu Luiyue. The fireball's powers body's body, leaving a long burn mark on the grounds of Chu Luiyue's heads. As expected, she's about to break through to the 4th rank. She can actually barely use martial skills now. Looks like she's going to win this round. A teacher said in a low voice. Orse writes to the point, is. Not to mention that she's not a stage 4 warrior, even if she is, she might not be little Luiyue's match. Once he said that, it immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding teachers. Bai Qin, why do you think so highly of Chu Luiyue? You have to know that it's a huge leap from a stage 3 warrior to a stage 4 warrior. The gap in between is not something an ordinary person can easily cross. Looking at Chu Luiyue's reaction and movements just now, she must have undergone some simple training. To be able to execute those moves to such a standard proves that she is indeed talented as a warrior. It's a pity that she doesn't have a Yuan meridian. It's useless against martial arts. Bai Qin could not be bothered with them. Even if Chu Luiyue really could not become a real warrior in the future, her abilities were more than enough to deal with Chu Xianmin. The scene of the examination appeared in his mind again. He still vividly remembered the moment when he was fighting with Chu Luiyue. He felt like he was on the brink of death. In the arena, Chu Luiyue did not panic when faced with Chu Xianmin's all-out attack. Instead, she raised her eyebrows and laughed. Since you asked me to teach you, watch carefully. This is how to use a sword. As she spoke, she quickly went forward and kicked the long sword on the ground up. She then quickly grabbed the hilt. So fast! Exclamations came from the crowd. Chu Liuyue's movements were even faster than before. Compared to her, Chu Xianmin seemed to have slowed down on purpose. Chu Liyue staggered her feet, bent her knees slightly, and tightened all her muscles. She was ready to unleash all her strength. She held the sword in her hand tightly. Just as the red force flame was about to burn her body, she suddenly raised her arm. The long sword hung high in the air with a cold light. Swoosh! Chu Liyue slashed down without hesitation. This slash was extremely fast. The crowd did not even see how Chu Liyue moved. They only saw a blurry silver shadow flash past quickly. They even heard the sound of air being torn apart. It was frightening. The next moment, the silver light passed through the middle of the red flame. Everything happened in an instant. However, in the crowd's eyes, Chu Liyue's slash did not seem to have any effect on stopping the red flame. That terrifying energy was still rushing towards her at high speed. You want to block my martial skill attack with that little bit of strength of yours? You must be dreaming, Chu Xianmin sneered. A piece of trash who can't even be considered a martial artist probably doesn't even know what martial arts are. With just one move, Chu Liyue would be crippled, if not dead. However, her smile suddenly froze on her face the next moment. This was because the flame stopped an arm's length away from Chu Liyue. After a short silence, it suddenly exploded. Boom! In an instant, the fireball exploded into countless sparks. As for the power that enveloped it, it quickly dissipated. Just as the sparks were about to land on his body, Chu Liyue raised his sword again, flipped his wrist, and slashed horizontally in front of him. The strong sword aura immediately formed an invisible barrier in front of her, blocking all the aftershocks outside. Countless sparks fell like bright stars in the dark night. They landed around her body, but her body was clean as if it had never been stained by a speck of dust. Her pair of black eyes seemed to be even more dazzling than the sparks. Everyone was stunned on the spot. If they did not see it with their own eyes, they would not have believed that Chu Liyue could successfully stop Chu Xianmin's martial arts attack with just a sword. Chu Xianmin was even more shocked. She widened her eyes and even forgot about the piercing pain on her face. She stared at Chu Liyue in a daze, and her mind was blank. In the next moment, Chu Liyue suddenly threw the long sword in his hand at Chu Xianmin. The piercing murderous intent came from all directions. It engulfed her. An indescribable sense of fear made Chu Xianmin's body go soft, and she could not move. Chu! The long sword flew past Chu Xianmin's head and instantly sliced off a piece of her scalp. Ah! Chu Xianmin screamed and immediately fell to the ground. Just now, she almost died. Your reaction is too late. You're too slow. You're too clumsy. It seems like you're only so. A cold and indifferent voice came from above her head. Chu Xianmin trembled as she raised her head. However, she saw that the weak girl she had once stepped on had completely changed her appearance. She was like a high and mighty existence that could not be touched. She made people submissive from the bottom of their hearts and did not dare to disobey her. Chapter 64. Chu Xianmin's entire body trembled. Her face was pale, and she was as scared as a ghost. Her lips trembled, but she could not say a single word. Just now, that sword had flown directly over her head. If it had been just a little bit off, she would have lost her little life. Everyone was dumbfounded. When did Chu Liyue become so strong? Her sword contained origin power, muttered a teacher in shock. Otherwise, there was no way to explain how that sword could have such a strong force. Chu Xianmin's ability was close to that of a stage 4 warrior. No ordinary person could force her to this stage. Doesn't this mean that her Yuan meridian is unblocked? The other teachers looked at each other in disbelief. No wonder, Bai Chen let out a long sigh. When he fought with Chu Luiyue previously, he already felt that something was amiss. Now that he thought about it, this was the only explanation. It seems like this girl has hidden her abilities well. Sun Zhongyan was stunned for a moment before he laughed. He looked at Chu Luiyue with shock and admiration. Even he did not feel that anything was amiss. If she had not fought with Chu Xianmin, who knew when the others would have found out about this secret? How can this be? Didn't they say that Chu Liuyue's Yuan Meridian is unblocked? The shock in everyone's hearts could not be calmed down. If Chu Luiyue is a warrior, why can't everyone detect it? If she had revealed a bit of force before, it would have been detected. Chu Xianmin would not have been so careless and lost so badly. Sun Zhongyan looked at Chu Luiyue calmly and smiled as he stroked his beard. That's because she's not a warrior yet. What? All the teachers were stunned. She has absorbed enough heaven and earth force in her body, but she has never taken that step to become a real warrior. That's why no one noticed. Ling Zhu sighed softly. The way he looked at Chu Luiyue was completely different from before. At such a young age, she already knew how to hide her strength and bide her time. Her temperament was much stronger than other people her age. But the dean had checked her before, and she did indeed have an incomplete Yuan Meridian. Why is it now? I heard that a few days ago, Chu Luiyue sold the Crown Prince's hunting grounds and bought many medicinal ingredients from the treasure pavilion. At that time, this matter had caused a great uproar. Could it be that it healed at that time? But there are only a few celestial physicians in the entire country Yaoqin. Who has such ability? In their opinion, repairing a damaged Yuan Meridian was clearly an impossible task. However, now that Chu Luiyue was standing right in front of them, they had no choice but to believe it. Admit defeat or continue. In the arena, Chu Luiyue looked down at Chu Xianmin from above and spoke nonchalantly. Continue. When Chu Xianmin heard this, her body trembled violently. The pain on her face and head kept reminding her of what had just happened. If she continued, she was afraid that her entire body would be destroyed by Chu Luiyue. However, she felt extremely aggrieved to admit defeat to Chu Luiyue. Chu Xianmin slowly raised her head and looked at Chu Luiyue, who was standing in front of her. The girl that she had once stepped on, bullied, and toyed with was now looking down at her with the attitude of a victor. She never would have thought that such a day would come. Once she admitted defeat, the first place would belong to Chu Luiyue. She would win everything with ease. Chu Xianmin felt as if there were two forces crazily tearing each other in her heart, making it difficult for her to choose. Then, let's continue. Chu Luiyue did not have the patience to wait for her. He directly said this and raised his right hand. I admit defeat. I admit defeat. Chu Xianmin seemed to have been provoked by something as she suddenly screamed. At the same time, she quickly retreated and stared at Chu Liuyue's right hand in panic as if she was avoiding a flood or a ferocious beast. Chu Luiyue tucked a strand of hair behind his ear with his right hand and chuckled. What are you nervous about? I said that I'm only here to get first place. As she spoke, she looked at the examiner at the side. Teacher, can you announce the results now? The examiner was dumbfounded when he saw everything in front of him. He only regained his senses when Chu Luiyue spoke. Even though he had never imagined such a scene before, it was the reality now. He swallowed his saliva with difficulty. Batch 453 Warrior Assessment. First place, Chu Luiyue. First place, Chu Luiyue. This voice immediately spread far and wide. It reverberated throughout the entire back mountain. It was clearly transmitted to everyone's ears. Chu Xianmin's face instantly turned ashen, and her tears flowed down uncontrollably. It's over, the Chu family is really muddle-headed. I'm afraid they'll regret it when this news gets out today. said a teacher as he shook his head. Everyone clearly saw who was stronger in this match between Chu Luiyue and Chu Xianmin. Needless to say, Chu Luiyue even came in second place in the Xian Master Assessment. There were not many people in the entire country Yao Qin who had such outstanding talent in both warrior and Xian Master. Such a person, no matter which family he was in, would be doted on. However, how did the Chu family treat her all these years? She was bullied and humiliated by everyone. Bai Chen chuckled and touched his chin. Pfft, I'm afraid someone else will regret it the most. Upon hearing this, the few teachers beside him immediately looked in a certain direction. They did not forget that there was still a key person here. Crown Prince Rong Jin. Of these two sisters, one was his ex-fiancée whom he had abandoned, and the other was his new lover whom he doted on. One of them got rid of her reputation as a good-for-nothing and completely became a genius that everyone envied. The other's reputation was tarnished, and her reputation was ruined. She even lost to the other party in the competition that she was most confident in. She mistook a fish eye for a pearl and abandoned the real treasure. Who wouldn't regret it? Rong Jin stood rooted to the ground as if he had turned into an ice sculpture, exuding a terrifying chill. There was no expression on his face. It was like the frozen ground, cold and stiff. Only his hands and his sleeves were tightly clenched. It was as if he wanted to crush something. Not even 15 minutes had passed from the start of the competition to the end. His conversation with Chu Xianmin still seemed to echo in his ears, but Chu Luiyue had already given them a tight slap. In the competition venue, Chu Xianmin lay limp on the ground as tears and snot flowed down her face. Her face was a bloody mess, and a piece of her scalp had been shaved off. She looked extremely pathetic and ugly. However, Chu Luiyue was completely unscathed. He was as noble as the sun in the clouds. He did not put on any makeup, and his lips curled up into a smile. He was already beautiful beyond compare. The people standing beside him were all silent. They did not even dare to move, much less look at his current expression. However, Rong Jin still felt countless gazes landing on him. Mockery, ridicule, and contempt. All of this was because of Chu Luiyue. However, the culprit had already walked down from the competition venue and did not even look in his direction. It was as if he could not control himself as he quickly went forward and blocked Chu Luiyue's path. He questioned sternly, "Why? Did you lie to me on purpose? You were acting at the birthday banquet that day. You just wanted to break off the engagement with me, didn't you?" Chu Luiyue blinked. "Your Highness, where did this come from? You were the one who suggested breaking off the engagement." Rong Jin was instantly speechless. He was indeed the one who suggested it that day. However, how did he know? "I'm afraid you don't have to hold the celebration banquet for third sister, Your Highness." Chu Luiyue's smile became even more moving as he sincerely said, "However, I still wish you to have a blissful marriage. However, I still wish you all the best. May you live a long and happy life together and have a child soon." Chapter 65. He did it on purpose. Chu Luiyue did it on purpose. Rong Jin was not a fool. Seeing Chu Luiyue's current attitude, how could he not understand? She actually wanted to break off the engagement a long time ago. If not, why would she sell the hunting ground on her own? She even triggered a series of events later on. Rong Jin looked at the smiling girl in front of him. Her eyes sparkled brightly as if she had long expected this day. "If there's nothing else, Your Highness, I'll take my leave first." As Chu Luiyue spoke, she walked past him. From start to end, she did not look back at all. Rong Jin's heart seemed to be harshly stabbed by something. It was as if he had suddenly lost something important at this moment. He clenched his fists tightly and used his last bit of rationality to resist the urge to pull her. What position did he have now? Everyone was looking at him as a joke. Brother Jean. Brother Jean. Help me. I'm in so much pain. Brother Jean. When Chu Xianmin saw Rong Jean, it was as if she had seen her last life-saving straw. She cried even more miserably. She wanted to get up and walk toward Rong Jean, but her body seemed to be uncontrollably limp. She could not muster any strength no matter what. After struggling for a while, she slumped to the ground. A few parts of her body were smeared with dirty dust. In addition to her messy hair, frightening wounds, and bloodstains, she looked as frightening as a malicious ghost. At this moment, she no longer looked like the proud and popular genius girl. Many people in the crowd looked at her with disgust. Pfft, Chu Xianmin has really lost this round. Hee, didn't you like her a lot before? Why now? Pfft. I don't dare to like such a bold and unrestrained girl. She has really embarrassed herself today. In the future, whether it's in the academy or the entire Imperial city, her days won't be as good as before. If not, how can she win the Crown Prince's favor? There are too many women in the Imperial city who want to get close to the Crown Prince, but Chu Xianmin is the most successful. It seems like the Crown Prince's taste is really sharp. Ha ha ha. Hey, do you think the Crown Prince will still marry Chu Xianmin after today's incident? I don't know if the Crown Prince will marry her or not, but I do know that from today onwards, Chu Luiyue will immediately become the most sought-after noble lady in the capital. Now that her engagement with the Crown Prince has been annulled and she has regained her freedom, her appearance can already be considered peerless, and she's also a dual genius as a martial artist and mystic cultivator. The Chu family's doorstep will probably be trampled to pieces. Whispers could be heard. Rong Jin's body alternated between hot and cold. It was as if there was boiling lava in his chest that would explode the next second. He stared at Chu Xianmin, who was in front of him, with extreme hatred in his heart. Men! Take her away and let her recuperate. Rong Jin clenched his teeth and ordered. Someone immediately came forward and carried Chu Xianmin away. When she passed by Rong Jin, Chu Xianmin reached out her hand to ask for his comfort. Brother Jin, Rong Jin gave her a warning look. During this period of time, you should recuperate well. Don't come out if there's nothing important. Got it? Chu Xianmin had never been looked at like this by Rong Jin before. It was cold and indifferent. He looked at her as if he was looking at a useless piece of trash. Chu Xianmin's entire body trembled. She timidly retracted her hand and suppressed the fear and indignation in her heart. Yes. Yes, little Lu Yu, you're really something. I told you that you're a rare genius. Those old fellows didn't believe you. On the other side, Bai Chen had already rushed to Chu Liuyue's side and excitedly raised his chin at the group of teachers. Second in the Xian master class and first in the warrior class. What else do you have to say with such results? The teachers looked at each other and laughed helplessly. Ability was always the most powerful evidence. If they did not see it with their own eyes, they would not have believed that the good-for-nothing Chu Luiyue, who was once mocked by the entire Imperial city, could actually do this. Sun Zhongyan smiled and shook his head. That's enough, Bai Chen. From now on, no one will suspect that you purposely went easy on Lu Yu so that she could get in. On the contrary, I have to commend you for not letting the academy lose a true genius. Bai Chen thought of how perfunctory he had been to Chu Luiyue previously and immediately scratched his head guiltily. Sigh. This has nothing to do with me. It's mainly because little Lu Yu was outstanding. Many students looked at Chu Luiyue with eyes that had changed from disdain to curiosity and admiration. Teacher Bai Chen, can you tell me what happened during the exam? A student suddenly shouted. This sentence attracted the crowd's response. Yeah. Tell us. Passing all 3 tests. How did he pass them? Bai Chen jokingly scolded. Do you bastards want to rebel? I'm a teacher, not a storyteller. This matter has already spread outside. You guys can go and find out for yourselves. The crowd roared with laughter. Chu Xianmin listened to the laughter and felt that it was extremely piercing. In the past, she was the center of everyone's attention. She was the target of everyone's envy. But now, Chu Luiyue had completely replaced her and even gained more than her. What about her? Now, she could only be carried out of the competition venue and leave dejectedly. She was miserable and pitiful. She closed her eyes hatefully and gritted her teeth so hard that they almost broke. Chu Luiyue, it's not over between us. Rong Jin was in the same awkward situation as Chu Xianmin. He stood there stiffly and listened to the lively laughter behind him. He felt even worse. I still have some things to settle in the palace. I'll take my leave first. Rong Jin turned around and cupped his fists toward Sun Zhongyan and the other teachers. He then quickly left without looking back. Lu Yu, today is your first day in school. You can choose any subject as your major because you passed all 3 examinations. Now that you've participated in 2 examinations, I'm sure you have a deeper understanding of these subjects. Have you thought about which one to choose? Asked Sun Zhongyan. Once this was said, the crowd suddenly quietened down and looked at Chu Luiyue curiously. Bai Chen nervously swallowed his saliva. Originally, he thought that Chu Luiyue was the most talented as a Xian master. However, after the previous competition, he realized that Chu Luiyue had no problem with her Yuan Meridian. Furthermore, she also had an extremely outstanding cultivation talent as a martial artist. There were no more obstacles in front of her. Whichever path she chose would lead to a bright future. Chu Luiyue smiled. I choose Xian Master. The Chu family residence. There were no empty seats in the hall. All the important people in the Chu family were gathered here. There was a suffocating silence in the spacious hall. Nobody said a word, and they all had different expressions. They all rushed over after receiving the news and knew why they were gathered here today. Finally, Third Elder stroked his beard and said, the news has spread throughout the Imperial capital. The news has spread throughout the entire Imperial city. Many people have even sent gifts over. According to the rules, we should celebrate Liu Yue's admission into Tianlu Academy. Celebrate what? First Elder's face was ugly as he slammed the table. Chapter 66. Third Elder Chu Yin chuckled and asked with interest, what do you think? First Elder, you must be joking, right? Liu Yu got into Tianlu Academy and brought honor to the Chu family. Why are you punishing her instead? Everyone in the hall fell into an even more awkward silence. If it were any other Chu family disciple who got into Tianlu Academy, they would be overjoyed. However, this person had to be Chu Luiyue. She was the person who had been bullied by the entire Chu family for more than a decade. The more outstanding she was, the more embarrassing it was for the Chu family. It proved how blind they had been all these years. Now that the entire Imperial city knew about this, everyone came to congratulate them on the surface, but they were mocking them behind their backs. Many people were waiting to see them make a fool of themselves. The First Elder was furious. It's because of this that we have to punish her. There's nothing wrong with her body, and she's even quite talented, but she pretended to be useless and deceived the entire Chu family. Now that she's in the limelight, what does she think of the Chu family? The First Elder is right. I didn't expect Chu Luiyue to be so scheming. I don't believe that she didn't do this on purpose. Chu Yan suppressed the anger in his heart and spoke in a low voice. He had been handling some matters outside, but he rushed back immediately when he heard the news. At this moment, he hated Chu Luiyue to the core. Not only did she get into Tianlu Academy, but she even participated in the midterm assessment and came in second in the Xian Master assessment and first in the Warrior assessment. She had completely suppressed Minmin. How could Chu Yan accept this? If the Chu family disciples follow her example and are all like her, will there still be rules? Everyone in the hall exchanged glances when they heard this, and they all had different expressions. Chu Yan's words seemed to be for the sake of the entire Chu family, but in reality, everyone knew that he was abusing his position to take revenge. He was most proud of having Chu Xianmin, the most outstanding daughter in the family. Now that Chu Luiyue had shone brightly and even defeated Chu Xianmin, how could he be convinced? He might even want to kill Chu Luiyue. The third elder sipped his tea unhurriedly. Others may not know whether Lu Yu's body is healthy or not, but don't you think the Chu family knows best? Back then, His Majesty had invited several doctors to diagnose her, and all of them had said that she had an incomplete Yuan meridian. Even during the family test a few years ago, Lu Yu still didn't have any force in his body. If that's the case, Great Elders said that she was deceiving her superiors and concealing her subordinates. Could it be that you suspect that those people were lying? The Grand Elder's expression froze. I didn't say that. Those few people had venerated statuses, and they were not people he could offend. If word of this got out, his days would not be easy. Chu Yan did not give up and snorted coldly. Of course, those people can't be wrong. The only one at fault is Chu Luiyue. According to what the third elder had said, she had been lacking a Yuan meridian previously. How had she become a genius in the blink of an eye? She had never said anything about what had happened in between. If I hadn't gone to Tianlu Academy today, I don't know when someone would have found out about this. Everyone looked at each other. Actually, this was what they were most confused about. What exactly had happened to Chu Luiyue's body for her to undergo such a drastic change? Could it be the herbs she bought a few days ago? Someone whispered uncertainly. After those herbs were sent over, Chu Luiyue handled them herself. Are you trying to say that Chu Luiyue repaired her Yuan meridian on her own? The Grand Elder was so angry that he laughed, finding it extremely absurd. During that period of time, he had sent people to secretly monitor Chu Luiyue and her father, but he had not seen anyone enter their courtyard. No one in the entire country Yao Qin could repair her Yuan meridian. How could she have done it on her own? Either she had obtained some fortuitous opportunity, or someone even more powerful was secretly helping her. No matter what the reason was, he had to dig it out. The family head is still in seclusion, so I will handle all the Chu family matters. When Chu Luiyue returns, immediately bring her here for interrogation. He sternly scanned everyone in the hall, and his gaze finally landed on the third elder. The family head handed the Chu family to me, so I naturally have to be responsible for the entire Chu family. Chu Yin, why have you been so opposed? What are your intentions? The third elder sneered in his heart. This old thing is getting more and more shameless. He's really lawless when the family head isn't around. He relaxed his body, leaned back in his chair, and said indifferently, the Grand Elder misunderstood. Grand Elder, you've misunderstood. I'm not opposing you. I just feel that there aren't many capable people in the younger generation of the Chu family. Now that Chu Luiyue has finally appeared, she's a top-notch martial warrior and Xian master prodigy. She has also gained the favor of Tianlu Academy's teachers. Her future will definitely be limitless. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that she's the future face of the Chu family. Even if the first elder wants to interrogate, punish, and interrogate, there should be a limit. Of course, the first elder is so wise and wholeheartedly devoted to the Chu family. You definitely won't do anything overboard, right? The first elder was choked by his words and swung his sleeves fiercely. Of course. At this moment, a manservant suddenly rushed in from outside the door in a flurry. First elder. The first young mistress is back. The first elder rebuked angrily. So what if she's back? Why are you panicking? He raised his eyes and looked outside. Where is she? Tell her to come see me immediately. The page boy knelt on the ground with a plop. He looked flustered and helpless as he stammered, this. The first young mistress is back, but she's standing outside the door and refuses to come in. What? The first elder frowned. What is she trying to do now? If she doesn't want to come in, does she want us to invite her in? All these years, Chu Luiyue had always been timid in the Chu family. Now that she had just been admitted to Tianlu Academy, she was actually so arrogant. He snorted softly and looked around at everyone. See? Nothing has happened yet, but she's already putting on airs. Everyone in the hall had different expressions. The third elder asked, what did she say? The page boy wiped the sweat off his forehead. The first young mistress said, she wants the first elder to come out and meet her. She's rebelling. The first elder slammed the table and stood up. Who does she think she is? The third elder stroked his beard and laughed. First elder, Chu Luiyue isn't anyone. She's just a rare genius that only appears once in 100 years. She's the most outstanding person among the younger generation of the Chu family. You just said that the Chu family is the most important thing. You won't not go, right? You. The first elder was furious. Fine, I'll go. I want to see what trick she's up to. In front of the Chu family's door, Chu Luiyue stood with her hands behind her back. She looked at the two golden words, Chu family, on the plaque with a calm and indifferent gaze. Chapter 67. When the first elder and the others rushed to the main entrance, they immediately saw Chu Luiyue standing in front of the main entrance. At the same time, they also saw the huge crowd not far away. It was currently afternoon. The news of Chu Luiyue getting into Tianlu Academy had already spread throughout the entire Imperial city. Thus, many people rushed over to watch the show. Although they did not dare to get close to the Chu family's main entrance, they still formed a group and blocked most of the streets leading in and out of the Chu family. The first elder, who was already filled with anger, became even more furious when he saw this scene. What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and come in. He looked at Chu Luiyue and shouted angrily. She stood there without moving. Did she want the entire Imperial city to laugh at the Chu family? Chu Luiyue tucked her hair behind her ear and asked with a faint smile, First elder, I was a loser. Great elder, I used to be a good-for-nothing. I had nothing to say when you ordered me around. However, now that I've been admitted into Tianlu Academy, why are you still treating me like this? Don't tell me, you don't like me that much. The first elder choked and said in a low voice, You've been admitted into Tianlu Academy. It's a good thing that you got into Tianlu Academy. However, if you use this as your capital to act arrogantly, you can't do that. He raised his voice without batting an eyelid and said righteously, The Chu family is one of the 4 Imperial cities' families. Our Chu clan is one of the 4 great clans of the Imperial capital. As a junior, you made me, your senior, personally invite you over. Do you know what you've done wrong? Chu Luiyue burst out laughing. She looked at the first elder as if she had heard a joke. First elder, you also know that you're a senior. All these years, when I was bullied, have you ever appeared as a senior to protect me, not even once? You. The first elder was at a loss for words and looked away. There are so many things going on in the Chu family. It's normal for us to overlook things occasionally, that's why this oversight lasted for 10 years. Chu Luiyue interrupted him. The smile on his face gradually disappeared and his eyes turned cold. When I was 5 years old, I was fed poison by the servants and was in a coma for 3 days and 3 nights before I came back to life. When I was 7 years old, I wanted to cultivate like the other children, but I was told that I didn't even have the qualifications to go to the training grounds. When I was 10 years old, I was finally able to leave the manor, but because I had to go shopping for sundries and carry water to wash the clothes of those lazy servants in the middle of winter, my hands were full of frostbite. All of this, First Elder shouldn't not know, right? Chu Luiyue said calmly, but it made people feel a deep sense of despair and desolation from the bottom of their hearts. What did a child do wrong to deserve this? The great elder and the others were all speechless. The crowd on the street also fell silent. Everyone in the capital knew that the Chu family had a good-for-nothing. However, almost no one remembered that this trash was also a direct descendant of the Chu clan. No matter what, there was no reason to treat him so harshly. That's all in the past. Besides, it didn't cause you any substantial harm, did it? You even got into Tianlu Academy. What are you trying to do by saying all this now? Do you want the entire Chu clan to apologize to you? The great elder shouted angrily out of humiliation. Chu Luiyue didn't say anything. Her cold, sharp eyes swept across the people in front of her. Countless scenes flashed in her mind. Those were the memories of the original body. Even if she wasn't the real Chu Luiyue, she couldn't help but feel angry and hateful when she recalled those things. Perhaps it was because she had used this body, or perhaps it was because they had both been in a desperate situation. Now that she was Chu Luiyue, she naturally had to settle old and new grudges together. Chu Luiyue, you're too insensible. No matter what, the Chu clan gave birth to you and raised you. Even if they didn't take any credit, they still worked hard. Now, not only are you not grateful, but you're even accusing the Chu clan of being unfair to you in front of so many people. What are you trying to do? Chu Yan finally couldn't hold back and shouted loudly. Chu Luiyue glanced at him. Aren't I speaking the truth? Besides, my parents have always been the ones who gave birth to me. When did it have anything to do with the rest of the Chu clan? Chu Yan, I haven't settled the score of you secretly bullying my father all these years. How dare you say this to me? Although Chu Ning's abilities had weakened after he was injured, he was still outstanding in other aspects. Most of the credit for the shop under Chu Yan's name being able to operate well was due to Chu Ning. However, Chu Ning wasn't valued because of this. He was even oppressed by Chu Yan. The entire Chu clan would flatter the strong and trample on the weak. One could imagine how they treated Chu Ning. As a result, the father and daughter's days became increasingly difficult, and Chu Ning became increasingly gloomy. How dare you? Chu Yan didn't expect Chu Luiyue to scold him in front of his face. He was so angry that his brain went blank for a moment. Then, he pointed a trembling finger at Chu Luiyue and scolded, You! Chu Luiyue, do you really think that you're amazing just because you got into Tianlu Academy? Not only did I get in, but I also passed all 3 assessments. I also came in 2nd place for the Xian Master Assessment and 1st for the Warrior Assessment. Chu Luiyue raised his eyebrows. I'm not that amazing. I'm just a little better than Chu Xianmin. You! Chu Yan was so angry that he almost died, but he couldn't win against Chu Luiyue verbally. After all, everything she said was true. Strength was respect. There was no more powerful saying than this. Enough! First Elder suddenly shouted angrily and stared at Chu Luiyue. Go back right now. Reflect on your mistakes. First Elder, you seem to be mistaken about something. I didn't ask you to come here to invite me back. Chu Luiyue didn't move at all and said word by word, I'm here to cut ties with the Chu clan. Chapter 68. Everyone was in an uproar when she said that. What did Chu Luiyue say? She wanted to cut ties with the Chu family. Was she crazy? What did you say? The first elder asked subconsciously because he was too shocked. Chu Liuyue's expression was resolute. Every word was sonorous. It was as if thunder had struck everyone's hearts, causing a huge commotion. I said that from now on, my daughter and I will have nothing to do with the Chu family. Do you understand? Do you know what you're saying? The first elder stared at Chu Liyue in disbelief. He had never expected her to say something like that. The Chu family's blood flows in your veins. What you said is very unfilial. Very disrespectful. I think you're going to turn the world upside down after getting into Tianlu Academy. Not only the first elder, but everyone in the Chu family was also shocked. They also thought that once Chu Liyue made a comeback, she might hold a grudge against them for what happened in the past and might even think of ways to take revenge. However, no one had expected her to be so resolute and choose to cut ties with the Chu family. Even if she had become a genius now, it was simply wishful thinking for her to go against the entire Chu family. No matter what, the Chu family was one of the 4 great families in the Imperial city. With their status, many people did not even have the chance to climb up to them. How could she make such a choice? I'm not here to discuss with you. I'm here to inform you. Chu Liyue did not seem to care about the commotion her words caused. She was still calm and composed. This sentence was simple and plain, but it carried a hint of authority that could not be disobeyed. The third elder finally frowned. Lu Yu, you can't say such things casually. I know you feel indignant, but this is too impulsive. Third elder, I've made up my mind. Chu Liyue's tone toward the third elder was considered polite. This was because in the original body's memory, this person was one of the few people who had helped her and her father. He did not have a son and had always thought highly of Chu Ning. He even treated him as half a son. However, too many things happened later on. Although the third elder wanted to help him, he was powerless to do so. The third elder looked at Chu Liyue. He wanted to say something, but hesitated. In the end, he could only sigh. In the end, he was still useless. If he had more power in the Chu clan and helped them a little, the father and daughter would not have fallen to such a state. If Chu Liyue had not been admitted to Tianlu Academy today, he would not have had the confidence to confront the first elder. This girl had clearly given up on the Chu clan. If the Chu clan wanted to keep her, it would be too late. Chu Liyue. Now that Chu Ning isn't here, do your words represent his intentions? Chu Yan, who had been angered half to death, finally came back to his senses. He suddenly asked anxiously. Chu Liyue and Chu Ning's departure might not be a good thing for the Chu clan, but it was beneficial for his family. Chu Ning would no longer be able to compete with him for the position of the next head of the family, and Chu Liyue would no longer be able to occupy the best resources of the Chu clan as a genius. Once the father and daughter left, everything in the Chu clan would be his. Chu Liyue saw his eyes flickering. How could she not guess what he was thinking? She smiled and said slowly, "My words are clear. Of course, I represent my father. Don't worry, after we settle the final score, the father and daughter will naturally leave cleanly. We will no longer have anything to do with the Chu clan." She raised her fingers. First, my mother's dowry was 120 dan. If I remember correctly, after my father was injured, you used the excuse that my father did not need to work hard and gave the dowry to Lu Yao to manage. Since you want to sever ties, you should return it to us. Chu Yan and Lu Yao's expressions turned unsightly. Second, my father is the son of the head of the family, and I was once the eldest daughter of the Chu clan. Although the head of the family is no longer around, if he knew that my father and I left without anything, he would definitely feel uneasy. It's not too much for us to take 1/5 of the Chu clan's assets, right? Dream on. Chu Yan was the first to object. The Chu clan has many descendants. You and your daughter want to take a fifth of it so easily. How can there be such a good thing? I believe that everyone can see how much my father has done for the Chu clan over the years. If you don't want to give it to me, that's fine too. I will go to His Majesty to seek justice and see if we have a share of the assets. Chu Luiyue said straightforwardly. Chu Yan immediately shut his mouth. Who didn't know that Chu Ning was injured to protect the emperor? If this matter really reached His Majesty, even if it was only out of consideration for his benevolence and righteousness, His Majesty would definitely not treat Chu Ning unfairly. And that would only embarrass the Chu clan even more. First Elder was so angry that he laughed. Good, good, good. You've actually calculated it so clearly. Since that's the case, from today onwards, the two of you are not allowed to step into the Chu clan's gates. I'd like to see how you'll survive in the capital. Without the Chu clan as their backing, they wouldn't even have a place to stay. Chu Luiyue blinked and smiled. Chapter 69. At this point, everyone understood that Chu Luiyue had this plan all along. She had secretly bought a house and only turned against the Chu family when she was admitted to Tianlu Academy. That way, she could completely break away from the Chu family. Seeing that Chu Luiyue had made all the necessary preparations, the First Elder and the rest were instantly aggrieved. If it were in the past, they would definitely not object to Chu Luiyue and Chu Ning doing this. They would even be secretly happy to get rid of the stain. However, now that Chu Luiyue's identity had completely changed, wasn't this equivalent to them being abandoned by Chu Luiyue? If word got out, where would the Chu family put their face? First Elder, this Chu Luiyue is really too arrogant. I think there's no need to keep her around. Chu Yan took a deep breath and began to persuade the First Elder. What was the point of losing some face now? It was more important to completely eliminate this future threat. However, not everyone agreed with this matter. I think we can't be so careless about this matter. No matter what, Chu Luiyue is a rare genius now. The other families want her but don't have it. If we let her go just like that, wouldn't it be a huge loss? That's right. Moreover, the two of them are direct descendants. Severing ties is a serious matter. Now that the family head is not here, we have to be even more careful. The First Elder was not happy to hear this. He coldly glanced at the few people who were speaking. Why? Do you not trust me? Or do you think I have no right to make this decision? First Elder, don't misunderstand. We didn't mean that. Chu Luiyue is sinister and vicious. Minmin is her younger sister, but she actually injured her without mercy. Moreover, she hates the Chu family. If such a vicious person stays in the Chu family, she will be a disaster. Chu Yan said disdainfully. The First Elder's expression was uncertain, and he did not speak for a long time. After the shock, he thought carefully and really wanted to agree to this matter immediately. Not to mention other things, his relationship with Chu Ning and his daughter was very tense. There was even a grudge between them. He would never believe that they didn't hate him at all. If Chu Luiyue stayed in the Chu clan, he would definitely be highly regarded in the future. Once she truly matured, he was afraid that his bitter days would come. It was just that, it would be difficult to explain to the clan head. First Elder, although Chu Luiyue's talent is not bad, he is stubborn and vicious. He cannot be allowed to live. Moreover, if she left the Chu clan, her future would not be so easy. There was no need to be too afraid. As for Chu Ning, he's just a cripple. What's there to care about? Chu Yan whispered. The First Elder gritted his teeth. Someone, bring me a pen and paper. In the end, this matter was brought up by Chu Luiyue himself. In the future, even if the patriarch came out of seclusion and pursued the matter, it would still be Chu Luiyue's fault. There's no need. I've already written the declaration of severing ties and the division of assets. As Chu Luiyue spoke, he actually took out 2 pieces of paper from his bosom, and handed them over with great sincerity. Great Elder, just leave your handprint on it. A few laughs came from the crowd. This Chu Luiyue was really ruthless. He had directly prepared everything. The first elder's face turned red. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He snatched the 2 pieces of paper, suppressed the anger in his heart, and looked through them. When he found that there was nothing wrong with them, he resolutely bit his finger and pressed it directly. Take it. From today onwards, don't say that you're a member of the Chu clan. The first elder angrily threw the 2 pieces of paper back to Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue did not mind at all. He carefully looked at the bright red handprint on the paper. His red lips curved slightly, and he raised the 2 pieces of paper in satisfaction. All right, from today onwards, I'll go my way, and you'll go your own way. However, please remember to send the things on the paper to me within 3 days. I don't like to leave my things with others. Scram! The first elder finally could not hold back and shouted angrily. Then, he flicked his sleeves and turned around. Close the door. As soon as the first elder finished speaking, a surprised feminine voice suddenly came from not far away. Oh, there are so many people here. What's going on? Everyone looked back and saw a fair-skinned, beardless man in an official's robe. He was obviously someone from the palace. The crowd quickly made a path for him. That person walked forward curiously and finally saw Chu Luiyue, the first elder, and the others standing in front of the door. He was instantly delighted. Oh, isn't this first young Mistress Chu? His Majesty was very happy when he heard that you were admitted to Tianlu Academy. Chu Luiyue smiled and bowed. Eunuch Min, you're too polite. Yu will definitely personally go to the palace to thank His Majesty another day. Eunuch Min was a favored person by His Majesty's side. He was doing even better than the other courtiers. No one could easily offend him. The first elder coughed and quickly adjusted his expression. He squeezed out a smile. Eunuch Min, what brings you here? Does His Majesty have something important to tell you? Oh. I'm here to announce the good news. Today is a double blessing for your residence. Double blessing? What do you mean, Eunuch Min? Eunuch Min beamed and raised his orchid fingers. Chapter 70. After Eunuch Min finished speaking, the street fell into an eerie silence. The first elder and the others didn't look happy at all. Instead, they looked as if they had swallowed a fly. Eunuch Min immediately sensed that something was wrong. What happened to you? The first elder regained his senses and looked at Eunuch Min. He wanted to say something, but his throat seemed to be blocked. He couldn't utter a single word. How is this possible? He was severely injured back then. Even the celestial physician said that there was almost no chance of him recovering in this lifetime. How did he suddenly recover and even break through to become a stage 5 warrior? Chu Yan shouted in shock. He couldn't believe it. This was definitely not true. Eunuch Min narrowed his eyes and smiled coldly. Why? Lord Chu Yan, are you suspecting that we falsified the Imperial edict? Chu Yan was shocked. No. No. That's not what I meant. I'm just too shocked. There's no news about this at all. How? How could? Eunuch Min waved his horsetail whisk. He was very clear about the Chu family situation. Chu Ning and his daughter had suffered a lot in the past few years, and their status in the Chu family was very awkward. They had always been ostracized. It was normal that Chu Ning didn't tell them about his recovery and breakthrough to become a stage 5 warrior. After hearing this news, some people in the Chu family would probably be anxious. Wasn't Chu Yan the example? Chu Ning's rise would be his greatest threat. Of course, he wouldn't accept it. However, Eunuch Min couldn't be bothered to expose him. He smiled and said, "Not to mention you, even His Majesty only found out today. All these years, His Majesty has been brooding over Lord Chu Ning's injury. Therefore, when he heard that Lord Chu Ning had broken through to become a Stage 5 warrior, he was overjoyed. Coincidentally, the position of the Imperial Guard's commander-in-chief is lacking. Lord Chu Ning is the most suitable candidate. His Majesty even said that Lord Chu Ning would stay in the palace tonight to talk." Chu Yan immediately shut his mouth. Eunuch Min was clearly warning him. Even His Majesty didn't know about it, so what if he didn't know? Because they didn't know about it, it meant that the first person Chu Ning told was His Majesty. Was there a better way to show his loyalty? Perhaps His Majesty trusted Chu Ning even more now. What else could he say? The commander of the Imperial Guards. That was a great power. The only people who could hold this position were those who had outstanding abilities and were favored by His Majesty. Even Chu Ning, who was in the limelight back then, was only a small captain in the Imperial Guards. Now that he had just recovered, he actually jumped a few ranks and directly became a commander. From now on, he would quickly become the most sought-after figure in the imperial capital. Your Majesty's grace is a great thing. First Elder, your residents should be very happy, right? Eunuch Min continued. The Great Elder opened his mouth and forced a smile, but it was uglier than crying. What you said is reasonable, Eunuch Min, thank you for making this trip. Chu Luiyue stepped forward and interrupted the First Elder. This is indeed a joyous occasion. When Father returns tomorrow, we will definitely hold a banquet to celebrate. When the time comes, I hope that Eunuch Min will do me the honor of attending. Eunuch Min liked Chu Luiyue even more when he saw how tactful and tactful Chu Luiyue was. First, young Miss Chu, you are treating me as an outsider. Lord Chu Ning and you are both people with real ability. I can't wait to admire you. When the time comes, I will definitely pay you a visit to congratulate you. Look at your threshold, I'm afraid that it will be trampled to pieces from today onwards. Chu Luiyue shook her head and looked meaningfully at the First Elder and the others. The threshold is too high. I'm afraid that it will tire you out. Let's go somewhere else. Oh, you might not know, but I have already severed my ties with the Chu clan. From today onwards, my father and I will have nothing to do with the Chu clan. Even though Eunuch Min was used to seeing great storms, he was still shocked at this moment. What? Chu Luiyue smiled casually. In other words, these two joyous occasions have nothing to do with the Chu clan and these people. You only need to thank me for this joyous occasion. These people had bullied her countless times in the past, but now, she wouldn't let them bask in the slightest bit of glory. Digression, are we eating glutinous rice balls or yuan shao? Today is 5 chapters. Guess what tomorrow will be? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 71. This is such a big matter. I'm afraid that His Majesty is still unaware. Eunuch Min said hesitantly as he glanced at the First Elder and the others. Is this matter settled? The contract has already been written, and there are so many witnesses. Of course, it's settled. Eunuch Min, don't worry. I will personally explain this matter to His Majesty another day. Eunuch Min saw that no one from the Chu clan was willing to explain. He knew that there was no way out of this matter and couldn't help but sigh inwardly. He didn't expect that the cowardly, lowly, and easily bullied trash of the Chu clan was actually such a bold and decisive person. Severing ties with the Chu clan was the same as making a powerful enemy for himself. But now that Chu Ning was the commander of the Imperial Guards, and Chu Luiyue was a genius that everyone envied, the Chu clan probably wouldn't dare to do anything openly. Eunuch Min had always been a good person. He quickly put away his thoughts and cupped his hands toward Chu Luiyue with a smile. Then let me congratulate Lord Chu Ning and Miss Lu Yu on your housewarming. I still have some matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Chu Luiyue knew that Eunuch Min didn't want to get involved, so she went along with his advice. Take care, Eunuch Min. Eunuch Min bade farewell to the first elder and the others and quickly left. Chu Luiyue didn't stay any longer and turned to leave. She had only taken a step when she suddenly thought of something and turned around. Right, I heard that many people in the capital have already sent congratulatory gifts to the Chu clan. These should all be for me. I'll have to trouble you to send them over as well. She didn't even look at the ugly expressions on those people's faces as she turned around and left. The first elder stared at Chu Luiyue's back as she left. He wanted nothing more than to go up and teach her a lesson. But in the end, he restrained himself and shouted angrily. Let's go back. Bang! After everyone entered, the Chu clan's gates were tightly shut. However, the gossip that happened in the Chu clan immediately spread throughout the capital. First elder, Chu Luiyue has gone too far. If we don't get revenge for today's humiliation, how can our Chu clan maintain its standing in the capital? After returning to the residence, the first elder only left behind a few people with the most authority in the Chu clan to discuss the matter. Chu Yan was the first to speak, his expression furious. The great elder's face was gloomy, but he didn't say anything. Yeah. Even if she was admitted to Tianlu Academy, she was too arrogant. If he dares to do this now, who knows what he will do in the future? If we don't do anything this time and just admit defeat, then the entire Imperial city will say that our Chu clan is useless. This is absolutely intolerable. Does that Chu Luiyue think he can live a stable life after leaving the Chu clan? If we don't let her experience it, she will really think that we can't do anything to her. The few people present were discussing animatedly. The crowd was excited, as if they couldn't wait to teach Chu Luiyue a lesson. The third elder shook his head and said indifferently, "Don't forget, she still has Chu Ning." Everyone was speechless. The commander of the Imperial Guards. The current Chu Ning is indeed troublesome to deal with. So what? Could it be that Chu Ning alone can contend against the entire Chu clan? Chu Yan smiled sinisterly, and a trace of ruthlessness flashed across his eyes. A few powers in the Imperial city are intertwined. Chu Ning and Chu Luiyue seem to have turned the tables this time, but how can things be so simple? Since they dared to break ties with us, they must have the guts to bear the consequences. These words made the first elder's eyes light up. He paced back and forth and finally made up his mind. That's right. Didn't Chu Luiyue say that they want to hold a banquet to celebrate? I want to see how many people in the Imperial city will go. Chu Luiyue went to the new residence alone. After settling a few things today, she was in a good mood. It was already evening, and a gentle breeze blew, causing her hair to flutter. The afterglow of the setting sun elongated her shadow. She walked step by step like this, and it was rare for her to be so relaxed. In the months since her rebirth, she had been nervously planning everything. Today, she could finally relax a little. The surrounding noise gradually disappeared, and it became quiet. She looked up and could already see the green eaves of the new residence. Previously, she had sold the deed to the hunting ground for 300,000 taels of silver, and 100,000 of it was used to buy this residence. This place was the western street of the Imperial city, and it was very remote and quiet. Most officials and nobles wouldn't like this place, but Chu Luiyue liked it at first glance. She had lived in beautiful but cold palaces in her previous life. Now that she had been reborn, she really had no interest in those things at all. On the contrary, she liked this quiet place even more. Thinking that she and Chu Ning would be able to live their own lives far away from those people in the Chu clan, she couldn't help but smile. Suddenly, something fell on her face. It was slightly cold. Chu Luiyue was stunned, and she looked up. The water droplets fell quickly, and soon formed a line. It was actually raining. Chu Luiyue quickened her steps. She turned a corner and walked onto a bluestone road, and at the end of it was her new residence, but after turning the corner, Chu Luiyue was stunned. At the end of the simple bluestone road, there was a person standing in front of the gate of the residence. He was tall, wearing a snow-white brocade robe and a black cloak. The sky quickly turned a gray-blue color, and the rain poured down, as if there was a transparent curtain of rain hanging between the sky and the earth. The rain fell on the bluestone road, creating a faint layer of white mist, and the scene in front of her became a bit blurry. But his noble and peerless figure was still clearly distinguishable. The black and white colors set off his jade-like cold and clear face, like a flower on a high mountain that could only be looked up at. It was actually Rongxiu. Chu Liuyue's heart had just flashed with a trace of doubt when she saw that person suddenly walk towards her. The sky was dark, and under the flowing curtain of rain, he seemed to come from the darkness. For some reason, Chu Luiyue felt that this Rongxiu seemed a bit different from usual. She couldn't help but watch as he approached step by step. Finally, he walked in front of Chu Luiyue and stood still. "Youth," Chu Luiyue said with some hesitation. Whoosh! Rongxiu suddenly raised his hand, and a black shadow flashed, and the rain above Chu Liuyue's head was suddenly separated. It was he who held up a black umbrella for her. Chu Luiyue looked up at him and met his gaze. That pair of deep eyes was like a bottomless dark night. His voice was cold and ethereal, with a trace of imperceptible affection. "I've been waiting for you for a long time." A better reading experience came from the Love Network. Chapter 72. His voice was low and deep, like the wind messing up the strings of a zither. Every syllable fell gently in the rain, splashing waves on the ground. Chu Luiyue was dazed for a moment. It seemed that he had been waiting for her for too long. The cold rain fell on her face. She shivered and finally came back to her senses. "Why are you here?" She bought this house privately and almost no one knew about it. How did Rongxiu know and even wait for her here? Rongxiu's eyes turned slightly and fell on the drop of rain on her face. Then, he bent down slightly and reached out his hand. "Hey, don't move." Chu Luiyue instinctively tried to stop him, but when she heard this low voice, she unconsciously withdrew her hand. His hand was slender and white, with distinct joints. His fingers were very soft, and he gently wiped the rain off her face. He was very close to her. Chu Luiyue could even clearly see his long black eyelashes trembling slightly. His expression was very serious, as if this was a very important matter. Chu Luiyue did not know why, but she also held her breath. At this moment, time seemed to be extraordinarily long. After a long time, Rongxiu suddenly chuckled. "Breathe." Chu Luiyue responded with an "oh" subconsciously and finally breathed a sigh of relief. His warm breath fell on her cheeks, as if a spark had fallen and burned quickly. Rongxiu paused and his eyes darkened. "Are you done?" Chu Luiyue asked. "Wasn't it just a little rain? Did he need to wipe it for so long?" Rongxiu quietly withdrew his hand. His fingers seemed to unintentionally curl slightly and brushed past her lips. It flashed by. Chu Liuyue's heart skipped a beat and suddenly felt a little awkward. She looked up at Rongxiu, but saw that he had completely withdrawn his hand, as if he did not notice anything wrong. He looked calm. Probably, not on purpose, but why did he have to wipe her face every time they met? Muttered Chu Luiyue in her heart. She suppressed the ripples in her heart and asked again, "What's the matter? Why are you here?" Rong Xiao smiled. He held Chu Luiyue's hand and walked back. "We'll talk about it when we get home." Chu Luiyue lowered his head to take a look, and the corner of his mouth twitched. Go home. That was her home, not his. What the hell was with that matter-of-fact tone? Your Highness, what are you doing? Although there was no one around, it wasn't appropriate for them to do so, right? I'm cold. Rong Xiao said calmly. He was so confident that Chu Luiyue couldn't think of anything to refute him. Rong Xiao pulled her closer. Chu Luiyue raised his eyebrows. Your Highness, you won't feel warm like this. Rong Xiao nodded. Yes. But I won't get wet like this. Chu Luiyue was stunned. She turned her eyes and saw that his cloak was slightly wet. She suddenly remembered that when Rong Xiao held the umbrella for her, the umbrella was leaning towards her. For the sake of the umbrella, Chu Luiyue didn't intend to pursue the matter. The two of them walked silently to the door together. Chu Luiyue struggled for a while, and Rong Xiao naturally let go of her hand. Chu Luiyue opened the door and walked in. After taking 2 steps, he suddenly recalled something and turned around to take a look. Rong Xiao was still standing outside the door, and he didn't have the slightest intention to leave. Chu Luiyue secretly gritted her teeth. Your Highness, do you want to sit in my humble house for a while? Rong Xiao's thin lips curved slightly. Since you, is so kind, it would be impolite for me to refuse. As he spoke, he walked straight in. Chu Luiyue, why didn't she see before that Rong Xiao was so shameless? Chu Luiyue had only been to this house once when she bought it. At that time, this place was still relatively dirty and messy. Now that it had been renovated, it looked much more elegant and clean. Chu Luiyue invited Rong Xiao to sit while she brewed a pot of ginger tea. My humble house is simple and crude, and I don't have anything to entertain your Highness. After serving the tea, Chu Luiyue stopped busying herself and sat opposite Rong Xiao. This cup of ginger tea is enough. Rong Xiao didn't seem to mind. He poured 2 cups of tea, handed one to Chu Luiyue, and kept the other for himself. He took a sip. The white steam lingered around him, and his eyebrows relaxed. His words and actions didn't have the air of a prince at all. Instead, he seemed to be quite satisfied. Chu Luiyue found it strange. This ginger tea was very common and its smell was a little pungent. Most aristocratic families despised it, but he drank it so leisurely. Could it be that he had been living a poor life on Mingyue Tianshan for the past few years? It seems that your Highness didn't have a good life in the past, Chu Luiyue said deliberately. Are you used to drinking ginger tea? I'm not used to drinking ginger tea. Rong Xiao smiled. But this is brewed by you. It's very rare. I'm used to it even if I'm not used to it. I'm used to it even if I'm not used to it. Rong Xiao's tone was as calm as usual, but his words were a little ambiguous. Chu Luiyue didn't know what to say for a moment and pursed her lips. If she still couldn't guess Rong Xiao's feelings for her, then she was really stupid. It was a coincidence that he helped her once, but what about twice? Or 3 times? However, she didn't understand what Rong Xiao saw in her. Appearance? When they first met, she was sallow and emaciated. She definitely wasn't good-looking. Talent? She had only been admitted to Tianlu Academy today. Identity? She was the ex-fiancée abandoned by the crown prince and the first young mistress despised by the Chu family. Ordinary people couldn't wait to avoid her, let alone the respected princely. Your Highness, let's get straight to the point. Just say what you want to say. Chu Luiyue took a deep breath and straightened her back. She looked at Rongxiu seriously. Why are you here today? Or rather, what do you want from me? Although I've made a comeback, I'm alone and weak. There's nothing I can do to help you. You're just wasting your time and energy on me. Rongxiu turned the teacup in his hand. He lowered his eyes and muttered to himself for a moment before looking up at her. The two of them looked at each other. Countless lights flickered in Rongxiu's eyes. In the end, it reflected the young girl's face. I'm here today to celebrate your birthday. Chu Luiyue was stunned. Rongxiu suddenly took out a wooden box. A faint fragrance spread out. It was actually an extremely exquisite agarwood box. This is a gift for you. Chu Luiyue took it hesitantly. She moved her fingers and opened the box. A peach blossom hairpin lay there quietly. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 73. The hairpin was carved from black wood. There were a few lifelike peach blossoms on it, and even the stamens were very delicate. The most eye-catching thing was that there were a few crystal-clear snowflakes falling from the peach blossoms. It was midsummer now, so there was no snow. Chu Luiyue took a closer look and was surprised to find that the snowflakes were carved from an extremely precious moonstone. The moonstone was an extremely rare type of jade. It was clear and bright under the sun, and in the dark night, it would flow with a gentle light like moonlight. Chu Luiyue was extremely surprised. Although Rongxiu was the seventh prince of Country Yaoqin was nothing in the entire Black Tortoise mainland. If it was her previous life, it would not be difficult for her to obtain the moonstone as the destined princess of the Tianling dynasty. However, to the people of Country Yaoqin, this was definitely a rare treasure. How did Rongxiu get this? Moreover, he gave her such an expensive gift. Chu Luiyue closed the box and handed it over. Your Highness, this gift is too expensive. I can't accept it. Rongxiu looked at her steadily. Today is the day of your hairpin ceremony. According to the rules, the elders of the family should hold the ceremony and add a hairpin to your hairpin. Chu Luiyue was silent. Rongxiu was right. For the women of Black Tortoise mainland, the hairpin ceremony was a very important day. This was because it meant that the woman had become an adult and could get married. Even an ordinary family would specially hire someone to add a hairpin to their daughter's hairpin. As for the daughters of aristocratic families, it was naturally even more grand. During her hairpin ceremony in her previous life, all the subordinate countries specially went to congratulate her. The banquet lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. At that time, it was extremely honorable. After her rebirth, she had been planning how to get out of her predicament and take revenge. She did not take these things to heart at all. Today was her hairpin ceremony, but she had severed ties with the Chu family. Her only relative, Chu Ning, was also in the palace and had yet to return. If Rongxiu didn't come, she would have just spent the day like this. Yet, he had come, and had even brought such a great gift. Your Highness, Liu appreciates your kindness, but I really can't accept this. If you don't accept it today, I'll come back tomorrow. Rongxiu did not seem to care about her rejection, thin-lipped slightly. As long as you don't accept it, I'll come another day. Chu Luiyue, looking at Rongxiu's nonchalant expression, Chu Luiyue was sure that he would definitely do what he said. She gritted her teeth. Your Highness, have I ever told you that you are very thick-skinned? Rongxiu leaned against the chair and smiled faintly. I've just returned to the Imperial capital and have been recuperating in my residence. I've never heard of such words. Crack. Chu Luiyue opened the box again and pointed at the peach blossom hairpin. Your Highness, peach blossoms bloom in spring. Why is there snow on the peach blossom hairpin that you gave me? Peach blossoms can bloom in winter. How is that possible? Have you seen it before? Chu Luiyue sneered in her heart. Rong Xiu really could say anything. However, Rong Xiu suddenly raised his eyes and looked at her deeply. This gaze reminded Chu Luiyue of the first time she saw him standing in the rain. He also looked at her with such a gaze. She couldn't guess what he was thinking. She even felt that he was looking at someone else through her. I've seen it before. He closed his eyes and hid the ripples in his eyes. He sighed softly and said in a low voice. I've seen it before. The sky is filled with snow, and the peach blossoms are dazzling. Digression. So, how long has Master Xiu been waiting? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 74. Chu Luiyue didn't know how to describe Rong Xiu at this moment. He seemed to be reminiscing about the scenery he described, but it was more like he was thinking about someone. Where could one see peach blossoms in winter? And who was the person that he couldn't forget? No matter what, it was obviously very important to him. Chu Luiyue hesitated for a moment, but finally accepted the peach blossom hairpin. Then, thank you very much, Your Highness. Rong Xiu rested his chin on one hand, looking leisurely. The warm light shone on his face, making his already noble appearance even more outstanding. Chu Luiyue glanced outside the door. The rain was getting heavier and heavier, with no signs of stopping. She asked, Your Highness, do the people in your residence know that you're here? Now that it's raining so heavily, they should come to pick you up later, right? Although he had an umbrella, it was a bit too much to let the dignified princely go back in the rain. Especially when the other party had just given her a big gift. Rong Xiu glanced at her with a faint smile. You don't want to see me so much that you're in a hurry to drive me back. Chu Luiyue said sternly, how is that possible? It's my honor to have you here. But this place is really shabby, it can't be compared to Prince Li's residence. I think this place is not bad. Rong Xiu knocked on the table. Besides, I've been weak recently and can't stand the cold. If the rain continues, I'm afraid I'll have to stay here for the night. Chu Luiyue picked up the teacup, intending to take a sip of tea, and almost dropped the cup in her hand. Her eyes widened in shock. You want to stay here for the night? How can that be? It was also her first day staying here. Rong Xiu is not related to me in any way, so why is he sleeping here? Your courtyard looks quite big, don't tell me you don't even have a guest room. Rong Xiu seemed a little surprised. Chu Luiyue was speechless. There were many rooms in this house, but she had bought this house for peace and quiet, so she only had 2 bedrooms prepared. One belonged to Chu Ning, and the other belonged to her. There was no place for him. Chu Luiyue immediately informed Rong Xiu of the situation. Your Highness, it's not that I want to chase you away, but I really can't make room for you. My father will be back later today. Didn't your father enter the palace to meet the emperor? I heard that Imperial father seemed to be very happy and said that he would talk to Lord Chu Ning all night. Chu Luiyue glanced at Rong Xiu warily. It wasn't strange for him to know about this. Eunuch Min had already said at the Chu clan's entrance that anyone who wanted to know could find out by asking around. Moreover, as a prince, he was very clear about what was going on in the palace. This princely was not as gentle and harmless as he looked on the surface. Father will be back when we're done talking tonight. As his daughter, I can't not even leave a place for my father. Rong Xiu nodded in agreement. That's right. As a junior, I shouldn't disturb my elders. Before Chu Luiyue could heave a sigh of relief, he continued. Since that's the case, then. I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you, Chu Luiyue was about to slam the table and stand up when she saw Rong Xiu coughing so hard that it seemed as though he would faint at any moment. This guy had made up his mind to stay here. Chu Luiyue clenched and unclenched her fists, then clenched them again. Finally, she stood up abruptly. This humble house is simple and crude. The windows are broken and the roof is old. If the wind or rain gets in, and it hurts your body, please bear with it. Rongxiu finally stopped coughing. Thank you, His skin was as thick as the city walls. What gentle as jade. What modest gentleman. It was all a facade. He was clearly an extremely shameless lecher. Chu Luiyue cursed in her heart as she tidied up the bed. Swoosh. She shook the quilt fiercely. Bang. She slammed the window shut. Bang bang bang. She threw the pillow heavily with both hands. Although the pillow is made of wood, it can't withstand such tossing. Rongxiu couldn't help but remind her as his eyelids twitched. Chu Luiyue grinned. Don't worry, this thing is very sturdy. I'm just worried that you won't be able to sleep well. Rongxiu tactfully shut his mouth. However, looking at her arrogant and indignant expression, the corners of his lips curled up again. All right. I've tidied up everything. You can rest here by yourself. Chu Luiyue finished tidying up and was about to leave. Rongxiu stepped forward and stopped her. Where are you going? Chu Luiyue looked at him strangely. I'll leave this place to you. Naturally, I'll go somewhere else. Rongxiu shook his head. I have nightmares easily at night. I can't be without people. Chu Luiyue slowly widened her eyes. So, plop. A white figure suddenly broke through the window and entered. It fell to the ground. The two of them looked over at the same time. Chu Luiyue was pleasantly surprised. Shue. Why are you here? Shue lay on the ground. Its originally fluffy and soft fur was now wet from the rain. It looked thinner than before. When it heard Chu Luiyue's voice, it wanted to turn around and get up, but the cold gaze nailed it to the ground. It didn't dare to move and pretended that it had accidentally fallen in. Chu Luiyue looked back at Rongxiu gloatingly. Since Shue is here, why don't you just let it accompany you? Shue is so smart. It can definitely take good care of His Highness, don't you think so? Rongxiu looked at Shue and said in a cold voice. Yes. Shue shuddered. The next moment, it shook off the rain on its body. At the same time, an icy blue flame quickly burned its body, evaporating the remaining rain. In the blink of an eye, it returned to its usual tall and clean appearance. Then, it quickly rushed to Rongxiu with an obedient look. Chu Luiyue's gloominess was swept away. She turned around and left with light footsteps. In the room, the man and beast fell into an awkward silence again. You came at the right time this time, huh? You can get a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 75. Chu Luiyue was not really angry when she gave the bedroom to Rongxiu. Rongxiu had helped her a few times, so she owed him a favor. She did not mind letting him stay for a day. After walking out of the bedroom, she thought for a while and walked toward the study room. There was actually a bed in the study room, but Chu Luiyue did not plan to sleep. Today, she wanted to break through that layer of window paper that hadn't been broken yet, and become a true martial artist. Chu Luiyue closed the door and windows, sat cross-legged on the bed, and slowly closed her eyes. This body had the Daijin Yuan meridian, so her cultivation speed was many times faster than ordinary cultivators. Therefore, although Chu Luiyue had just recovered her Yuan meridian, the heaven and earth force that she had absorbed was already very abundant. Now that she had been admitted to Tianlu Academy, she naturally did not need to hide the fact that her Yuan meridian had recovered. The room was very quiet. Soon, the heaven and earth force started to surge toward Chu Liyue's body. She would break through to become a martial artist tonight. This rainy night was destined to not be peaceful. At the Liu family, did Chu Liyue really defeat Minmin in the assessment? After the midterm assessment, the academy had a 3-day break. Liu Fian had just returned to the Liu family when she was pulled into the study room to ask about what had happened in the academy. Liu Fian pursed her lips. It's true. The Liu family members looked at each other. This. Chu Liyue really turned from a good-for-nothing to a genius. When they first heard the news, they did not believe it. Even the celestial physician could not cure the damaged Yuan meridian. How could Chu Liyue be cured? However, now it seemed that they had to believe it even if they did not want to. I think that Chu Liyue is very strange. She must have used some tricks to defeat Minmin. This person is ruthless. Not only did she defeat Minmin, but she also disfigured her. Minmin hates her to death now. The adults were all taken aback. When they asked about the ins and outs of the matter, they all shook their heads. This Chu Liyue has completely offended the Chu family. She is different from before. In addition, Chu Ning is the commander of the Imperial Guards, so she is even more arrogant now. However, it will not be easy for them to establish themselves in the Imperial City. The Chu family has sent a letter. Second Elder, what do you think? Although we are not on good terms with the Chu family, Minmin still has the blood of the Liu family in her. Besides, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. There is no need to offend the Chu family at this time. Sir. At the Gu family, although it was the holiday, as usual. No one in the Gu clan cared about this matter. They were also discussing how to treat the Chu clan. Chu Ning's current status is different after all. If we don't give him face, wouldn't it be the same as not giving His Majesty face? Now that the Chu clan is gradually declining, there is no need to be so afraid. But they are Chus very strong. Them, ye. In that case, we are on the Chu family's side. At the Si family, not long after Si Ting and Si Yang returned, they were summoned by Si Yi. There was no one else in the room except for the three of them. What do you think of Chu Liyue? Si Yi asked straightforwardly. Si Yang said excitedly. Master, Chu Liyue is really powerful. She is only slightly less talented than elder brother. The Chu family must have been blind all these years. Si Yi put his hands behind his back. Chu Liyue has cut ties with the Chu family today. What? Si Yang was shocked. But when he thought of how the Chu family treated her, he felt that she did not do anything wrong. The Chu family treated her so badly, so it is understandable that she cut ties with them. She is really bold. Si Ting, who had been silent, finally looked at Si Yi. Master, what is your choice? Si Yi looked at him approvingly. Such a sharp and intelligent mind was truly a person who could take on great responsibilities. The Chu family. In fact, I am not the only one. Everyone in the capital will make the same choice. The Chu family. I am afraid they will not give her the time and opportunity to grow. Si Ting shook his head. I want you to choose Chu Liyue. Si Yi was very surprised. Why? Si Ting was silent for a moment. She is much more talented than I am. Also, she will not give the Chu family any chance. Digression, today at 5:00 p.m. Lalala. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 76. The rain was still falling. In the study, Chu Liyue held her breath and focused, quickly absorbing the heaven and earth force around her. Time passed by slowly. Chu Luiyue gradually realized that something was wrong. The earth force entered her body and flowed along her yuan meridian to her dantian. It did not form a core of essence but was absorbed into the small lake instead. To become a true martial artist, one must condense a core of essence. To Chu Luiyue, the earth force in her body was abundant, and forming a core of essence was a simple matter. But after such a long time, the earth force was absorbed into her body but could not be condensed. After entering the lake, the earth force seemed to have been swallowed and disappeared without a trace. There was not even a trace of a ripple. Gradually, Chu Luiyue realized that the situation was serious. If this continued, wouldn't she never be able to condense a core of essence and become a martial artist? But the core of essence was very important to a martial artist. Especially after breaking through to rank 4, the core of essence was even more important to a cultivator. If she did not have a core of essence, she would not be a true martial artist, and her strength would be greatly limited. Chu Luiyue tried to keep the earth force and condense it, but she could not do it at all. The power of this lake directly covered my power. Chu Luiyue opened her eyes and muttered softly. With her current strength, it was impossible for her to fight against the lake in her body. It was too troublesome. What exactly was that lake? Chu Luiyue was sure that this lake would not cause any fatal harm to her. If she was in danger, this lake would even release its power to save her. But if she did not figure out what it was, wouldn't she be stuck here forever? Chu Luiyue looked at her hand. She clearly remembered that when she was reborn and woke up, a strange pattern had appeared on her palm. After that, the pattern disappeared, and a transparent broken page appeared in her dantian. Finally, the page turned into a lake and floated quietly. The last time this lake moved was when she healed her yuan meridian. Chu Luiyue did not pay much attention to it at first, but she did not expect this thing to stop her from condensing a core of essence. After that, Chu Luiyue unwillingly tried a few more times, but it all ended in failure. The sound of rain outside the window made her feel irritated. What exactly is this broken thing? The moment she said that, Chu Luiyue immediately felt her dantian vibrate. A terrifying force burst out from the lake. Chu Luiyue's body trembled, and the blood in her chest and abdomen. She immediately stabilized her body and looked at her dantian. She was immediately stunned by what she saw. The lake, which was originally floating in the air, rapidly changed its shape and finally turned back into a transparent book page. It was the page that Chu Luiyue had seen before. But this time, red flowing, red flowing, red. Chu Luiyue's heart was in her throat. What does this sudden change mean? On the transparent page, the red stream of light actually gradually condensed into a word. Chu Luiyue hurriedly focused and took a closer look. And the second word also appeared at this time. This time, Chu Luiyue finally saw the words clearly. Stupid. Chu Luiyue, she did not expect that the first word that appeared on this mysterious transparent page would be, "Are you scolding me?" Chu Luiyue asked in disbelief. The page trembled slightly, and the words on it quickly disappeared. But the shock in Chu Luiyue's heart did not dissipate. After the previous incident, she had secretly guessed that this transparent page should be a broken treasure. As for what it was, she was not sure. But now, it seemed that it had its own consciousness. Who are you? Chu Luiyue suppressed the shock in her heart and asked coldly. With such a thing in her dantian, it was really unsettling. Soon, another line of words appeared on the page. The core of essence condenses the force of heaven and earth, overflowing with a ladle. Chu Luiyue was stunned. Did this mean that the core of essence could condense too little force of heaven and earth? But wasn't this normal? There were countless cultivators in the world. If the core of essence could condense the force of heaven and earth, wouldn't it be a mess? Moreover, as the cultivator's level increased, the core of essence would also gradually become stronger. It could also contain more force of heaven and earth. This was not something that could be done overnight. As if guessing her thoughts, the line of words disappeared and a new line appeared. Stupid beyond belief. Chu Luiyue, this was the first time she had been scolded like this in both her previous and current life. Before she could say anything, the line of words had completely disappeared. Even the pages scattered and formed a lake. It seemed that the other party would ignore her. Chu Luiyue stared at the floating lake and fell into deep thought. What was the meaning of that sentence? The core of essence overflowed with a ladle. Could it be that it was saying that it could contain more force of heaven and earth? Thinking of this, Chu Luiyue's heart suddenly moved. She began to try to feel the power contained in the lake. Vast and ethereal. Chu Luiyue held her breath and carefully tried to guide the power within. A ripple appeared on the surface of the lake. Boom! In an instant, a terrifying power flew out from the lake and surged towards Chu Luiyue's limbs and bones. Chu Luiyue suddenly opened her eyes and pointed forward. Bang! The door suddenly shattered. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 77. Chu Luiyue stared blankly at the broken door and didn't regain her senses for a while. Just now, didn't she just cause a ripple on the lake? How could she release such a tyrannical force? At this moment, a figure rushed in from outside the door. Hearing this, Chu Luiyue instinctively looked up and saw that it was Rongxiu. He obviously rushed over after hearing the sound of the broken door. Chu Luiyue suddenly had a thought. The place where he was resting was actually quite a distance away from here. How did he rush over so quickly? Rongxiu's gaze quickly swept across the door, and he walked in with big strides. How are you? What happened just now? Actually, the moment he came in, he realized that Chu Luiyue was fine and heaved a sigh of relief, but he still wasn't completely at ease. Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat. His usually lazy voice actually had a trace of nervousness in it. Upon closer inspection, there was also an imperceptible trace of worry between his brows. This was extremely rare for Rongxiu, who didn't show his emotions on his face. Chu Luiyue shook her head. I'm fine. I was just trying to condense a pearl of essence just now and there was an accident, so I didn't control my strength well. Really? Rongxiu looked at her suspiciously. How could condensing a pearl of essence cause such a huge commotion? Chu Luiyue also felt that this statement was ridiculous. Even a rank 3 warrior might not be able to release that kind of power. But this was the truth. She rubbed her brows helplessly. I'm really fine. Your Highness, don't worry. At this moment, Shui rushed in from outside and jumped in front of Chu Luiyue. It sniffed left and right as though it was afraid that something was wrong with Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue's chin was tickled by the fur on its head and couldn't help but laugh. All right. Shui, I'm fine. I'm not injured. Shui blinked and seeing that she was indeed fine, it rubbed against her neck as though it was acting coquettishly. Rongxiu glanced at Shui. Shui, who was originally very happy, immediately became well-behaved. It growled and obediently took a step back and lay on the ground. Chu Luiyue rubbed its head and looked at Rongxiu and asked curiously. Your Highness, why are you here so fast? Shui was a high-level magical beast and was a lion species. It should have heard the commotion and it was still lagged behind Xiu. Could it be that you were nearby? Rongxiu noticed that her gaze toward him gradually became a little strange. He could not help but laugh out of anger as he pinched her face. Shui. I just couldn't sleep, so I went for a walk and came over when I heard the noise. Chu Luiyue pulled his hand away, but she didn't really believe him. Such a coincidence? Moreover, even if he was just taking a walk nearby, she could still clearly remember how fast he was when he came over. This frail, princely really hit his strength well. Chu Luiyue didn't continue asking. Your Highness, it was just a false alarm. You should go back and rest. Rong Xiao looked meaningfully at the broken door. If I leave, are you sure you won't tear this place down? Chu Luiyue, there was really no way to explain this. You can continue to condense the core of essence. I won't disturb you here. With that, Rong Xiao sat down on a chair in the corner of the room. He even took out a book and started reading, as though he didn't intend to leave. Chu Luiyue was speechless for a while. It was obvious that she couldn't win against this person in terms of shamelessness. So be it. That lake was in her dantian and outsiders wouldn't be able to detect it. At most, they would only be able to feel the power that erupted from it. And that could be explained by the core of essence. Wait a minute. Chu Luiyue had a flash of inspiration and finally understood the meaning of that sentence. It meant, using it as the core of essence. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 78. After figuring this out, Chu Luiyue was suddenly enlightened. Earlier on, she had already proven that she was able to manipulate the energy within the lake. That was actually the same effect as the Pearl of Essence. Furthermore, the force that this lake could contain was clearly many times stronger than the Pearl of Essence. She had only stirred up a small ripple and it had already exploded such a strong force. If she were to use all her strength, then, she would definitely be able to produce an even stronger attack. With this thing in her dantian, it seemed that it was impossible for her to condense the Pearl of Essence. Then, the only way was to use it as her Pearl of Essence. However, there was a problem in doing so. This thing had its own consciousness and obviously would not completely obey her orders. If she did not control it well, she might even bring disaster upon herself. Right at this moment, Chu Luiyue suddenly felt a strange movement within her body. She hurriedly held her breath and looked towards her dantian. She saw that the lake had gradually transformed into a huge water droplet and on top of that water droplet, a strange picture slowly emerged. It was the picture that had first appeared on Chu Luiyue's palm. At this moment, Chu Luiyue suddenly felt as if she had formed a subtle connection with that water droplet. It was as if this water droplet had become a part of her body. Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat as she tried to manipulate a trace of energy within the water droplet. A ripple that was much weaker than before appeared and at the same time, the force quickly spread to every part of her body. She could clearly feel that because of that subtle connection, she was able to do it much more smoothly this time. She could move it as if it was her own arm. She repeatedly tested it a few times and finally confirmed that this water droplet had now formed a certain connection with her. Right at this moment, a vast and boundless voice, as if it had come from ancient times, reverberated in Chu Luiyue's mind. 3,000 worlds, chaotic heavens, my master shall rise and fall. When Chu Luiyue heard this voice, she was unable to regain her senses for a long time. This sentence was extremely arrogant and conceited. In her previous life, she had met many top experts who had dominated the mainland but none of them had dared to say such words. The Black Tortoise mainland was vast and boundless with thousands of races. Who could truly stand at the peak? Furthermore, the key point was that he was talking about, my lord. Wasn't he talking about her? Isn't this a little too absurd? The sound gradually dissipated, leaving only the huge transparent water droplet floating quietly in Chu Luiyue's dantian. It was as if everything that had just happened was just an illusion. Chu Luiyue wanted to ignore that sentence, but he found that the voice was deeply engraved in his mind and could not be erased. She waited for a while and decided not to think about it anymore. Anyway, since this thing had already recognized her as its master, it probably wouldn't harm her. For the time being, she would just treat it as the pill of essence. Previously, it was in the form of a lake. Now that it had recognized her as its master, it had turned into a water droplet. Chu Luiyue could still clearly remember that when he was repairing his Yuan meridian, an extremely small droplet of water had flown out from the lake and scattered throughout his body with a vast amount of power. The reason why she was able to possess the Daijing Yuan meridian seemed to be due to the effect of the water droplet. And that water droplet only took up less than 1,000th of the water droplet. Right at this moment, a red ripple suddenly appeared on the water droplet. The entire water droplet seemed to be wrapped in a layer of transparent and smooth water film, and the red ripple was engraved on it. No matter how the water droplet flowed slowly, it did not move at all. This looked rather similar to the pill of essence. Generally, as a cultivator's strength increased, the pill of essence in their body would also undergo a corresponding change. For a rank 1 warrior, a pattern would appear on the pill of essence. For a rank 2 warrior, there would be 2, and so on. Chu Luiyue looked at the water droplet and pondered seriously. Actually, other than the shape of this thing being different from the pill of essence, everything else was very similar. Oh, right, it even had its own consciousness. But this was a lot more convenient for her. But, why was there only one? Now that she had the pill of essence, according to her current strength, she should be a rank 3 warrior. But why was there only one pattern? Chu Luiyue unwillingly tried to add another one, but the water droplet did not move at all. After looking at the pattern for a while, Chu Luiyue realized that the water droplet felt that her current strength was not enough to add a second pattern. Are you looking down on my current strength? Chu Luiyue asked in disbelief. I should have at least 2, right? What was 1? She was just a rank 1 warrior after all this time. The water droplet did not move. Chu Luiyue felt that she was being despised. She stared at the water droplet for a while, but to no avail. In the end, she could only open her eyes in anger. Your pill of essence is condensed. Rong Xiao noticed the commotion and immediately looked over. With one look, he sensed the aura on Chu Luiyue's body. She was actually a rank 1 warrior. His expression became a little strange as he looked at Chu Luiyue for a while and asked with uncertainty. Are you sure you don't want to continue breaking through? Her strength was definitely not at this level. Chu Luiyue gritted her teeth. How could she admit that she could not add a second line to her pill of essence? A rank 1 warrior is pretty good. Keep a low profile. Rong Xiao smiled faintly. You turned Tianlu Academy and the entire Imperial city upside down, and now you want to keep a low profile. Didn't you say that you wanted to hold a banquet to celebrate? Chu Luiyue snorted. Of course. Not only did she want to cut ties with the Chu family, but she also wanted to return the mockery and humiliation 1,000 times over. Rong Xiao looked at her fuming and could not help but laugh. Looks like you is going to treat me to a good show. Translator's note, you is going to treat me to a show. Chapter 79. After a series of twists and turns, she finally broke through and became a true martial artist. Chu Luiyue heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. It was already late at night, and the rain outside had finally stopped. Chu Luiyue looked at the door that she had accidentally broken and began to wonder if it was still necessary to sleep here. Suddenly, Rong Xiao's expression changed slightly, and he looked out the door. The night was dark, and all the undercurrents were hidden. After a moment, he said, since the rain has stopped, I'll take my leave first. Chu Luiyue was very surprised. Didn't your highness say that you want to stay here for the night? Although the rain has stopped, if you go out now, you'll be easily exposed to the wind, right? Hearing her deliberately teasing him, Rong Xiao couldn't help but smile. This study room is no longer habitable. Does you or want to sleep in the same room as me? Chu Luiyue snorted softly. She basically pretended not to hear Rong Xiu's teasing. Your Highness is free to come and go, please. I'll come to see you another day. Rong Xiu said and left. Shui looked at Chu Luiyue reluctantly and quickly followed. Your Highness, there's water outside, Chu Luiyue was about to remind him, but her pupils suddenly shrank. Rong Xiu's feet landed on the water like a feather, and there wasn't the slightest bit of dirt on them. If one looked carefully, they could vaguely see that there was a narrow gap between the bottom of his feet and the water surface. He was actually walking in the air. This was something that only a stage 5 warrior could do. Chu Luiyue looked at this scene and was shocked. Rong Xiu seemed to be only 16 or 17 years old now, but his strength had already reached such an astonishing level. Weak? Everyone had probably underestimated this mysterious princely. Chu Luiyue had never underestimated him, but she really didn't expect that he was already a stage 5 warrior. Such talent was considered outstanding even in the Tianling dynasty. While Chu Luiyue was shocked speechless, the figures of the man and the beast had already disappeared into the night. After midnight, Chu Luiyue returned to his bedroom. When she saw the black cloak by the bed, she suddenly came back to her senses. Rong Xiu had actually forgotten to take it away. Chu Luiyue curled his lips in disgust. In the end, he put away the cloak and planned to find time to send it back. Probably because she had experienced too many things today, she quickly fell into a deep sleep after lying down. Rong Xiu left the house and walked along the bluestone path before turning the corner. One person quickly went forward. Greetings, Master. It was Qing. What happened? Rong Xiu asked calmly. Master, Qiong just sent a message saying that there are strange movements in Jiuyou Tower. Qing wiped the sweat off his forehead and panted. If it wasn't for the urgency of the matter, he wouldn't have dared to contact Master at this time. However, this matter couldn't be delayed. Qiong was a teacher at Tianlu Academy. Although he had a lot of experience, he usually kept a low profile. Nobody knew that he was actually Rong Xiu's man. Tianlu Academy's status was extraordinary. Even the royal family didn't dare to do anything. Nobody would have thought that Rong Xiu, who was always away, had actually planted a spy in Tianlu Academy. Qiong had been in the academy for many years, but he had never contacted them. This was the first time. How could Qing dare to delay? He rushed over anxiously. Now, he could only secretly pray that he didn't disturb Master. Rong Xiu nodded, not surprised at all. Just let him continue to monitor. Qing was shocked. Master, you already guessed it. Jiuyou Tower was extremely important to Tianlu Academy. How could Master have predicted that it would have strange movements today? He even arranged for Qiong. Shui yawned loudly at the side as if it was a little impatient. Rong Xiu glanced at it and suddenly asked, "What's the fourth princess doing here? What has the fourth princess been up to recently?" Qing hurriedly said, "The fourth princess has been asking to go to the hunting grounds. She didn't even hesitate to spend a lot of money. I heard that she even invited many disciples from the aristocratic families in the Imperial city, saying that she wants to hunt high-level fiend beasts. The time is set for tomorrow." Rong Xiu nodded lightly and glanced at Shui. "We must let the fourth princess have a good time." Shui licked its paws, and a cold glint flashed in its icy blue eyes. "Master, your cloak. Master always wears a cloak when he goes out. Why is it gone now?" Rong Xiu turned around to take a look. The blackish-green roof blurred the outline of the house in the dark night. "You can come and get it tomorrow." A better reading experience came from the Love Network. Chapter 80. The next morning, when Chu Luiyue woke up, she discovered that Chu Ning had already returned and was waiting for her in the main hall with breakfast prepared. She had already told Chu Ning about the change of residence, so Chu Ning knew about this place. "Daddy, why are you back so early? Didn't His Majesty say that he wanted you to stay the night to talk? Did you come back directly after finishing?" Chu Ning looked at her lovingly. "Come and eat." "Daddy actually came back in the middle of the night, but I didn't wake you up when I saw that you were already asleep." Chu Luiyue sat down beside him, looked at the piping hot breakfast, and couldn't help but tease him. "Daddy is now the commander-in-chief of the Imperial Guards, so this meal is extremely precious." Chu Ning raised his hand as if to pat her head, but he paused and retracted his hand with a long sigh. "To father, you are the most precious thing. Yesterday was your hairpin ceremony, so I planned to come back immediately after finishing my talk with His Majesty. I didn't expect that I would talk with His Majesty until night, and it rained heavily, so I came back late." Chu Luiyue's heart warmed up. "Daddy already made longevity noodles for you, yesterday. This is already enough." Chu Ning shook his head regretfully. "It's a pity that I couldn't give you a grand hairpin ceremony. Daddy becoming the commander-in-chief of the Imperial Guards is already the best gift. Also, you is already satisfied that Daddy agreed to sever ties with the Chu family." Chu Ning was different from her. He had deep feelings for the Chu family. But when he heard her say this, he only fell silent for a moment before agreeing. "In the past, we were in a difficult situation and leaving the Chu family would only make things worse. But everything is different now, so there's naturally no need to continue staying there." Chu Ning smiled proudly. "But Daddy didn't expect that not only has you on Meridian recovered, but you also have the talent to become a mystic cultivator. Don't worry, Daddy already had the subordinates send out the invitations. At noon, we will celebrate for you at the guest house." His identity was different now, and his connections had been restored, so it was naturally easy for him to do these things. "You, how many tables do you think we should set up? I had Zhao Ming reserve 10 tables, is that enough?" Chu Luiyue held up a bowl of porridge. "Daddy, you can decide. Then 10 tables first. If it's not enough, we'll add more." At this moment, a person wearing the armor of the Imperial Guards walked in. "Greetings, Commander. Zhao Ming, have you finished the discussion at the guest house?" Chu Ning asked with a smile. Zhao Ming looked hesitant. "Commander, the guest house said that they are full today. There is no way to host a banquet." Chu Ning's smile. "You can change." Zhao Ming's head hung even lower. "Commander, this subordinate has already gone to Spring Prosperity Brothel to ask. They also said that they have no free time today. The most famous restaurants in the capital are all full." Chu Ning had already realized something. Zhao Ming did not dare to speak. In fact, it wasn't just these famous shops that he asked. He had even asked some ordinary restaurants. Initially, they were very polite when they heard that Chu Luiyue wanted to host a banquet. However, when they heard that it was Chu Ning and Chu Luiyue who wanted to host it, they rejected it like they were avoiding snakes and scorpions. Everyone's reaction was similar, as if they had discussed it beforehand. Chu Ning's face turned cold as he clenched his fists. It was obvious that the Chu family was behind this. They were trying to embarrass them on purpose. The Chu family. My poor Minmin. That Chu Luiyue is really vicious. She actually injured you to this extent. Chu Xianmin had been sent back to the Chu family yesterday. Lu Yao almost fainted when she saw her. Even though a night had passed, she was still trembling with anger when she brought up this matter. Chu Xianmin lay on the bed in despair. Her face was as pale as a ghost, and she looked much more haggard. Beside her bed, there were broken mirrors scattered all over the place. Her eyes were unfocused, and she kept mumbling. "My face. My face." As she spoke, she began to cry again. "Mother, my face is ruined. The crown prince won't want me anymore. It's all Chu Liyue's fault. It's all that B*TCH's fault. She deserves to die." Lu Yao went forward and hugged her, her heart aching as she gritted her teeth. "Minmin. Your face will recover. I'll help you. I won't let that Chu Liyue off." Chu Yan, who had a gloomy face, finally shouted impatiently. "Enough. What's the point of crying? Your face doesn't matter. Your talent was crushed by her. That's the main point." Chu Xianmin shivered, and her tears flowed even harder. She was his daughter after all. Chu Yan felt sorry for her and suppressed the anger in his heart. "Don't worry. I'll avenge you. Whether it's Chu Liyue or Chu Ning, they won't be able to cause any trouble this time. Weren't they very smug yesterday? They even said they wanted to hold a banquet to celebrate. I want to see which family dares to go against the Chu family. I'll support them. It's not that easy to establish a foothold in the Imperial city alone." Chu Xianmin twisted the corner of her shirt unwillingly. "But Chu Ning is now the Imperial Guard's commander-in-chief, and Chu Liyue is a genius. Even if we can't hold a banquet, in the future," Lu Yao sneered. "It's hard to say if they will have a future. Father, there's no need to ask. These shops in the Imperial city have obviously received some kind of hint. Even if they didn't, they wouldn't go against the Chu family if they knew what was good for them." Chu Liyue finished his porridge calmly and wiped the corner of his mouth. Chu Ning frowned. They said they wanted to celebrate, but it seemed like they couldn't hold it now. If word got out, they would be laughed at by the people in the Imperial city. What should we do now? Chu Ning didn't want his daughter to suffer any more grievances. "If there's no other way, I'll go personally." He was the Imperial Guard's commander-in-chief, after all. They couldn't not give him any face. Chu Liyue pressed on his arm and shook his head. "Father, you don't have to show up. Everyone is watching us now. If we do this, they'll think we've lost. Are we just going to let it go like this? No, we have to wait." "Wait? The banquet isn't important. What's important is the people attending the banquet." Chu Liyue looked at the sky. "There's still 3 hours before the time you set. Let's see who will come this time." Digression, who's coming? Today, mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 81. Knock, knock, knock. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Zhao Ming went to open the door and saw an unfamiliar face. The person who came was dressed like a servant. He had shifty eyes and was unpleasant to look at. "You are..." That person did not expect Zhao Ming to open the door. Seeing that he was wearing the uniform of the Imperial Guard, he reacted and said in a strange tone, "I was wondering who it was." "So it's the Imperial Guard." Zhao Ming frowned and felt that this person did not come with good intentions. He pulled a long face and said in a deep voice, "If you have something to say, then say it. If not, hurry up and leave." As he spoke, he was about to close the door. "Hey, don't be in such a hurry. Of course I have something to say here." That person quickly stepped forward and stopped Zhao Ming. He took the opportunity to look inside the door, as if looking for something. "If you don't leave, don't blame me for being rude." As Zhao Ming spoke, he grabbed the servant's wrist and pushed him out fiercely. The manservant staggered and fell to the ground. He grimaced in pain and his anger immediately flared up. "Do you know who I am?" How can you push me like this? I'm from the Chu clan. When Zhao Ming heard this, he was so angry that he laughed. Wasn't the Chu clan looking for a beating by coming here? This is where Chu Luyue lives, right? Look at how poor and pedantic you are. Bah! The servant got up and became more arrogant. Didn't you say that you were going to hold a celebration today? TSK, why hasn't anyone come after so long? Don't you think it's deserted? A dog barking, it's not deserted at all. A cold female voice sounded. Chu Luyue and Chu Ning heard the commotion and came over. Zhao Ming hurriedly said, Commander, Miss, this person is here to cause trouble. This subordinate will drive him away. Chu Luyue raised her hand and looked at the servant with interest. What, is the Chu clan so useless that you don't even dare to come personally? The servant's face turned red. Who are you calling a dog? Chu Luyue shrugged. Whoever is calling a dog. The manservant was choked. He rolled his eyes and sneered. Didn't you say yesterday that you were going to hold a banquet to celebrate? Why are the two of you still at home at this hour? Don't tell me, they don't even have a place to hold their banquet. Don't tell me you intend to cook and entertain your guests in this shabby little house. That's not right. I'm afraid no one will come, right? Ha ha ha. Chu Ning's face darkened. Looks like you don't want your mouth anymore. The servant shuddered and took a few steps back in fear. It was said that Chu Ning had regained the strength of a rank 5 warrior, and his aura was indeed different. But, so what? In this huge imperial city, wasn't there still no one who paid attention to the father and daughter? There wasn't even a restaurant that was willing to host them. He shrugged his shoulders and teased, Oh, Lord Chu Ning is now the commander-in-chief of the Imperial Guards. You won't hold a grudge against a servant like me, right? Besides, I'm here to help you. The first elder asked me to pass a message to you. He said that if you really lack a place to hold your banquet, there's a way. The Chu family has several restaurants. If you're willing, the first elder is willing to let bygones be bygones and let you use the place. As for the money, I'll even give you a discount. What do you think? This was a blatant humiliation. Lord Chu Ning, don't be unhappy. The first elder is also trying to help you. Look, you said yesterday that you were going to hold a banquet. If there's no place today. He patted his face, where will you put your face as the commander-in-chief? Chu Ning was furious. He gathered force in his palm and was about to teach him a lesson. Right at this moment, another person walked over from not far away. May I ask if this is Miss Chu Luyue's residence? The few of them looked over together. The person who came was a slightly plump middle-aged man. He was smiling and looked very amiable. Chu Luyue nodded, This is indeed my home. May I know who you are? The man was a little surprised, then he smiled even more eagerly, Sorry. So you're Miss Luyue. I'm the shopkeeper of Phoenix Restaurant, Su Hui. As soon as these words were spoken, the people present were all taken aback. Phoenix Restaurant was an old restaurant that had been in the imperial capital for 100 years and was very famous. It was rumored that Phoenix Restaurant had 3 absolutes, the taste, the price, and the scenery. The taste was needless to say. Everyone who had tried it was full of praise. Correspondingly, the price was not something that ordinary people could afford. Even some of the children of aristocratic families might not be able to afford the food here. As for the scenery, it was said that Phoenix Restaurant, from top to bottom, from inside to outside, was very elegant. It could be said to be a sight in the imperial capital. Because of this, Phoenix Restaurant was definitely the #1 restaurant in the imperial capital. Yingbin Restaurant could not compare at all. But why was the shopkeeper of Phoenix Restaurant here? You're here for, I heard that Miss Luyue wants to hold a banquet. Does Phoenix Restaurant have the qualifications to host it for you? The surroundings suddenly fell silent. Chu Luiyue blinked. You mean, you're willing to host this banquet? Su Hui bowed slightly. We're honored. Chu Luiyue really did not expect that after being rejected by all the other restaurants in the Imperial capital, Phoenix Restaurant would actually offer to help them. This time, even Chu Ning was a little uneasy. Shopkeeper Su, is what you said true? But aren't Phoenix Restaurant's banquets usually booked a month in advance? If we go now, there shouldn't be any space, right? Phoenix Restaurant would definitely be filled to the brim. Su Hui smiled. Lord Su Ning, you don't have to worry about this. Phoenix Restaurant has already been cleared today and will only serve Miss Lu Yu. Su Hui's words were like thunder exploding in everyone's ears. They could not calm down for a long time. Chu Luiyue was the first to react. The restaurant was saved by someone. More importantly, who saved it? She did not have any friends or backers in the Imperial capital and had offended a lot of people. Who was it that was willing to risk offending the Chu family to help her? No. To be able to make Phoenix Restaurant act like this, that person must have an extremely strong background and ability. How could they be afraid of the Chu family? Shopkeeper Su, are you sure you want to help them? I heard that a cup of tea costs at least 500 taels of silver. I'm afraid these two won't be able to afford this banquet. Are you sure you want to do this in profitable business? The page boy did not expect the people from Phoenix Restaurant to come. He was shocked, but he refused to admit defeat and forced himself to speak. Upon hearing this, Su Hui didn't even look at him as he smiled at Chu Luiyue. Don't worry, Miss Lu Yu. Someone has already paid for all the expenses today. Who? Second Master Yen. Second Master Yen. Could it be Yen Gu from Jinbao Pavilion? You still don't know. A high-level magical beast appeared in the hunting ground you sold to them a few days ago. To express his gratitude, Second Master Yen specially booked Phoenix Restaurant for you to express his gratitude. Today, he will also come to congratulate you. Lord Chu Ning, Miss Lu Yu, please, digression, today, Mu Yu added more. I'll add more in a few days. Today, let's go to the hot pot. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from AI Network. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.